A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all-old-time radio.
The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned a robbery detail. 2 convicts escaped from the state penitentiary. They're heading for your city. They're armed. They've boasted they won't be taken alive. Your job? Get them.
In Fatima, the difference is quality.
Yes, in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Prove it yourself today. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you're now smoking.
Buy Fatima in the bright sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Wednesday, October 6th. It was cloudy in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of robbery detail. My partner's Ed Jacobs. The boss is Captain Didion. My name's Friday. We were on the way out from the office, and it was 2:40 p.m. when we got to Kesterson Boulevard. Number 1256.
Sounds like she's having a party, huh?
Yeah, try it again, huh? Maybe they can't hear it inside.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Police officers, ma'am. You Ruth Thompson?
Yes, that's right. What is it?
Well, my name's Friday. This is my partner, Sergeant Jacobs, Central Robbery. We'd like to talk to you a few minutes if we could.
Well, I have a party going on right now. A few of my friends are over. What'd you want, Sergeant?
About an Andy Powell, Miss Thompson. I understand you know him.
I did know him, yes. I haven't seen him for a long time, 3 or 4 years anyway.
Mind if we ask a few questions about him? Won't take long.
All right. Come in, please.
Thank you. We're sorry to disturb you, ma'am. It's pretty important or we wouldn't hold you up.
Oh, it's all right. Down the hall here.
All right.
We can talk in the kitchen if you don't mind. It's my girlfriend's birthday today, so it'd be nice to have a little party for her.
Oh, I see.
Chair there, if you like. Oh, here, let me wipe it off. You spilled a drink on it. It's probably Danny who spilled a drink.
Suppose you know about Andy Powell, Miss Thompson, what happened this morning?
What's that?
About Andy Powell. You heard what happened this morning?
Just what I read in the morning paper. They said he broke out of San Quentin, another man with him. It's true, then? He did break out?
Yes, ma'am. That's the information we have. There's an all-points bulletin out on him.
Well, I don't want to get involved in it. It's none of my business. Andy doesn't mean anything to me.
Well, at the time he was sent up, you were engaged to Powell. Is that right?
Yes, but that was before he got into trouble, before he went to San Quentin. I saw him after the trial. I told him how I felt about it. I told him it wasn't any use.
You mean you called it off, that is?
There wasn't much else to do. It was robbery, 5 years to life. It wasn't the first time either. Andy knew it'd be a long time, so I had to tell him. I had to call it off.
We understand you were on Powell's correspondence list while he was up at Quentin. You wrote to him, did you?
Yes, the first couple of months. We haven't written lately, though. There wasn't any point to it, no point at all.
Well, when was the last time you heard from Powell, Miss Thompson? The last time you wrote to him?
Oh, 8 or 10 months. At least that. As I say, there wasn't much sense in going on. Andy knew he was in there for a long time. He couldn't expect me to wait all that time. Matter of fact, he said he didn't expect it. He told me that.
You been up to visit Powell recently, Miss Thompson?
No, I haven't.
Well, then you haven't seen him since he went up to Quentin. You'll swear to that?
Why do I have to swear to it? I already told you. Andy doesn't mean anything to me. It didn't make sense. It's all over. I'm not even a relative. Why do I have to swear to anything?
You haven't seen Powell since he went up to Quentin, is that right?
Miss Thompson, is that right?
What if I saw him or if I didn't see him? What difference does it make? It's none of my business.
Oh, did you see him, Miss Thompson?
What difference does it make? I don't have anything to do with him. He doesn't mean anything to me. I told you.
Did you see him?
This morning.
When?
Late this morning, about 10:30.
Was he alone?
No, another man was with him.
Who was the other man? You recognize him?
Bert Selby. It's the way he introduced him. He didn't try to hide it. Some fellow he broke out of jail with.
What'd they want? Why were they here?
Clothes, money. Looked like the devil, both of them. Terrible.
What'd you give them?
They asked for him. Not that silly. Didn't trust me any more than they trust you. And he had a knife. I tried to tell him I didn't have any money. He didn't believe me. Came at me with that knife. I gave him the money.
How much?
About $17, $18, some loose change. They emptied my purse. They took it all.
Anything else?
Clothes, a couple of suits of my father's. He died last year. They took his gun, too. I never thought Andy'd be that way. It was terrible.
What kind of a gun was it, Miss Thompson?
Colt revolver, 38, I think. They took that and the clothes and the money. It was about 10:30 this morning.
How come you didn't report that? You say you knew about the escape. You knew they were wanted, didn't you?
Why should I? They warned me about it. They threatened me. Said they'd come back and get me if I told the police. Look, I don't want to get mixed up in this. I'm engaged to a nice fellow now. We want to get married. I don't want to get mixed up in this. Andy Powell's nothing to me.
Did you watch the two men when they left the house here? And you noticed if they drove off in a car?
No, I didn't. I just shut the door and prayed I was rid of them. Took my money, food, my dad's clothes. Don't make it any tougher, huh? Please.
Well, it's not a question of that, ma'am. We have to find them. We're going to need all the cooperation we can get.
I told you everything I could, honestly. Said they'd come back and kill me if I even talked to you. I can't do any more. I sure hope you don't find him.
How's that?
And Andy went out the door. It's the last thing he said. He said if the cops ever found him, there was going to be a fight. Terrible look on his face.
Yeah.
He said he'd never take him alive.
The APB had come in a few minutes before 8 o'clock that morning. It was from the warden's office, San Quentin. The two suspects had been assigned to an early morning work detail at the penitentiary, and they were first reported missing at the 7 a.m. count. Number one suspect was Andrew A. Powell, WMA, 29 years, 5'9", 175 pounds. Brown hair, blue eyes, tan complexion. Suspect number two, Bertram O. Selby, WMA, 31 years, 5'11", 160 pounds, blonde hair, gray eyes, tan complexion. Both of them had long criminal records. Both of them had been serving time for armed robbery. They'd used guns before. We figured if they had to, they'd use them again. Before we left Powell's ex-girlfriend, Ruth Thompson, we called the office and arranged for a 24-hour stakeout on her home in case the escaped prisoners returned. We also made arrangements for a stakeout at the downtown restaurant where she was employed as cashier. We passed along the information which the Thompson girl had given us, and a broadcast and an APB was gotten out on the suspects. 4:05 p.m., Ed and I continued making the rounds of all the known friends and associates of the escaped prisoners. We failed to come up with any more leads. 5:50 p.m., we went back to the city hall.
Clouding up again, huh? Over there in the east?
Yeah, the paper says rain tonight and tomorrow. We can sure use it.
Oh, I can't.
What's the matter?
I haven't had a chance to get the shoemakers yet. Here, look at that. Hole in my shoe. Been meaning to get them half-soled. I keep forgetting.
Yeah. Don't tell me that's the only pair of shoes you got.
No, I got another pair at home. They're not comfortable, though, not broken in. What's the trouble with this job?
What do you mean?
Shoes. You get a new pair, start wearing them around, it happens every time.
Huh?
No sooner get the tops broken in, the soles wear out. It's a vicious circle.
Yeah.
Hi. What's the word?
Oh, hi, Jess. Anything in the book for us, you know?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I'll check it.
How'd you two make out? Any luck?
Oh, not too bad, Jess. We know Powell and Selby were in town this morning. Good chance they're still here.
Mm-hmm.
Any kickback on that last all points we got out?
Well, nothing so far. Gaffney and Ricketts are running down a couple of possibles right now. One of them might pan out.
Nothing in the book, Joe. We're clear.
Just saying, Ed, on this Powell and Selby thing, got a couple of possibles we're checking on. Both calls came in the last hour. One was a holdup, Olympic near Vermont. Pawn shop there. Two men pulled it off, slugged the owner, took clothes, money, 12-gauge shotgun.
How about descriptions on the men?
Well, they seem to be fairly close. What I got over the phone, Gaffney and Ricketts are out talking to the victim. They took mugs of Powell and Selby along, waiting for their call back now.
You said you had two calls. What was the other one?
211 and slugging out on Hollywood Boulevard, just above Western. A couple of thieves knocked over a dry goods store. Some take, clothes and money. Descriptions are pretty close there, too. Hollywood division's covering. Waiting for their call back. Does anyone want to smoke?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Here.
Thanks. Thompson girl's the only one who had anything, huh? None of the others could help you out?
Yeah, that's about the size of it. Apparently Powell doesn't have too many connections in town. Selby has even less. No more than a dozen names on that list, were they, Joe? Friends, relatives?
An even dozen. A couple of bars Powell was known to hang out when he was in town. Checked them out, too. Nothing.
Yeah. Well, they sure made a beeline here after they broke Quentin. It's a good 500-mile stretch. they don't have the connections here to help them, then what's the big attraction?
Yeah.
They could have some help lined up we don't know about. Somebody to hide them out, keep them in groceries for a while.
It's possible they're making a run for one of the border towns, Tijuana, Mexicali. Maybe Powell figured on more help from the Thompson girl. Clothes and money. Enough to get him and Selby over into Mexico, huh?
She said all they got was $17. Had to cut corners to make it on that.
Robbery, Gonzalez. Oh, yeah, Jack. You sure? Yeah, okay, fine, thanks. Bye.
What do you got?
Jack Ricketts. He and Gaffney just finished talking to the owner of the pawn shop that was held up, the one on Olympic.
Yeah.
They gave him a handful of mugshots to check. He tabbed two of them, Powell and Selby.
6:30 p.m. A supplementary broadcast and an APB was gotten out on the two suspects, and the Record Bureau's photocopy room turned out 2,000 copies of Powell's and Selby's mugshot for distribution. At 9 p.m., a theater on Western Avenue was robbed of $192. Powell and Selby were again identified as the hold-up men. The robbery victim, the manager of the theater, said that both men were armed, one with a .38 revolver, the other with a sawed-off shotgun. Neither the manager nor the two witnesses were able to tell us how the thieves got away from the scene of the crime, if they were on foot or if they had a car. 11:20 p.m. A hotshot call came through on a holdup at a liquor store and delicatessen down on South Central Avenue. For the third time that night, Powell and Selby were identified from their mugshots as the holdup men. They'd used the same weapons, the revolver that they'd taken from the Thompson girl's home and the shotgun that they picked up in the robbery of the Olympic Boulevard pawn shop. Again, the victims were unable to tell us how the suspects got away, whether on foot or by car. Midnight, 1 a.m. There were still no replies to supplementary broadcasts and bulletins which had been gotten out. 1:25 a.m. Another hotshot call came through, this time on a holdup and a slugging at the 2050 Room, a small nightclub on West 9th Street. Ed and I handled the call. For the fourth time, the bandits were identified as Powell and Selby, and for the fourth time, they'd made good their escape. We interviewed the manager of the 2050 Room, a Herman Saunders.
Quite a few people in here at the time of the holdup, Mr. Saunders?
Yeah, good for Thursday night, 30 or 40 anyway. We sure left in a hurry. This is the second time this year we've been knocked over. Insurance company isn't going to like it too much.
Well, how much money did they take altogether, do you know?
A little less than $600 from the cash register, mostly currency, some rolls of dimes and quarters. Got another $150 from my wallet. That's about it. They didn't take anything from the customers.
Are you sure about that identification, are you? There's no chance of a mistake there?
I'm positive. I'd know Andy Powell anywhere. I should know him. Like I told you, he worked for me a year and a half.
I was here at 2050?
Yeah, he worked behind the bar. Good man, too. I don't get it at all.
You mean why it went bad?
Well, yeah, that, too. What I mean is if you're going to hold up a place, you don't pick a joint where everybody knows you. I spotted Andy as soon as I saw him at the bar. So did a couple of the waiters.
He wasn't wearing any kind of a mask? He didn't make any attempt to disguise himself?
No, stood there big as life, him and this other fella. Didn't waste any time either. They pulled the guns, lined up everybody in the place, and stood them against that wall over there. Real Wild West style. Took over the whole place. Acted real wild, Andy and this other fella. Must be crazy.
Nobody was hurt? Didn't slug anyone?
I slapped a few of the customers around. I thought for a while they were really going to get rough. They had us lined up against the wall. Andy was acting tough. Had this knife with him, good 4-inch blade. Went right down the line, jabbing people with it, threatening them. Must be out of his mind.
Now, you say he didn't take any money from the customers?
Yeah, that's right. They worked it pretty fast. Emptied the cash register, then my wallet. Then they beat it. Never so glad to see anybody go in my life.
Well, how'd they get away? Do you have any idea on that?
Old guy who sells papers down the corner, he says he thinks he saw a car pull away right after the stick-up. Said it was a blue sedan. Don't know how much stock you can put in it. The old man's eyes aren't what they used to be.
Did you know Paul pretty well when he was working here, Mr. Saunders? I mean, did you know any of his friends, people he used to run with?
No, I didn't know him that well. He worked for me, that's all. I still have his old address, the place he was living when he worked for me. I can get it if you want.
Yeah, if you would, please.
Sure, no trouble. I just don't get it. Don't get it at all. Of all the joints in town he could have held up, he had to pick mine, the one place he'd be recognized. You think he'd have better sense, wouldn't you?
You'd think so, yeah.
How'd I ever hire a guy as dumb as that Paul, holding up the place he worked for? Biggest mistake he ever made.
No, he made a bigger one yesterday.
Yeah, what was that?
When he broke prison. 2:05 a.m. Further investigation at the scene of the latest holdup failed to turn up any new leads. While Ed and I checked on Powell's former address, which we'd gotten from the owner of the 2050 Room, Gonzalez, Ricketts, and Gaffney continued checking the immediate neighborhood. In addition, a special detail from Metro Division was sent in to cover the entire area. The suspect's former address turned out to be a rooming house up on West Temple Street. The landlady remembered Andy Powell, but she had no forwarding address on him, and she could tell us nothing about his former friends and associates. We checked back with Gonzalez, Ricketts, and Gaffney, and they told us that besides the old newspaper vendor, the counterman at the coffee shop near the 2050 Room had also spotted a blue sedan leaving the vicinity of the nightclub shortly after the holdup. He was able to give them the make, the model, and a partial license number. A supplementary all points had been gotten out on it immediately, and the information relayed to DMV and auto theft detail. 3:10 a.m., Ed and I completed our assignment in the investigation and went back to the office to check for instructions from Captain Didion.
Can't see how we'd be much use out on the street the way things stand now, can you?
No, I don't.
Everything's covered I can think of. Supplementary all points is out. Detail from Metro's working in the neighborhood.
It's funny, isn't it?
What's that?
Well, this Andy Powell going back to that place he used to work and holding it up. That doesn't make any sense at all, does it?
That's for sure. Must have known somebody was going to recognize him. Couldn't have been a coincidence.
Well, there's only one way I can figure it. They don't care, either one of them. They got their money now, a car. They both got guns. They're out to go as far as they can.
Oh, hi, Jess.
Hi.
You just get back in?
Yeah. Hi, Joe.
Right. You as tired as you sound?
Worse. Fair piece of news, though.
Yeah, what's that?
Powell and Selby, they just found their hideout.
After 3 hours of canvassing the general downtown area, particularly in the vicinity of the last holdup, a team of men working with a special detail from Metropolitan Division interviewed a desk clerk in a small hotel on South Broadway who recognized the suspect's mugshots. The two of them had registered early the morning before under the names J.E. Dennis and Harold Thompson, both from Fresno, California. The hotel room was searched and 2 San Quentin inmate uniforms were found stuffed under the mattress of the bed. After the room was processed for fingerprints, there was no doubt that the recent occupants were Powell and Selby. The clerk had no idea when they were supposed to return. The hotel was staked out immediately, and the citywide search for the escaped prisoners went on. The following day, Thursday, October 7th, 11:30 a.m., still no sign of the suspects, no further reports or leads as to their whereabouts. The search went on. Ed and I signed back in at the office. 10 minutes later, a long-distance phone call came in for us.
When was that, Mort? What's that? Yeah, close enough, right? We'll let you know, yeah. Bye. Mort Gear down to San Diego.
Yeah, what do you want?
One of the traffic officers was checking a car about 8 o'clock this morning, 586 parking. Blue sedan, fits close to the description of the escape car.
Well, it's a pretty common model, isn't it? Did he say anything else?
Traffic man checked the inside of the car, glove compartment, found half a dozen rolls of dimes and quarters, same name stamped on all of them.
Yeah.
2050 room.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
Comparison proves Fatima quality. Prove Fatima quality yourself today.
Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Friends, to show our confidence in Fatima, we make this money-back guarantee. Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy Fatima quality, extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos. If you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas by August 1st, 1952, for your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Remember, because of its quality, its extra mildness, its better flavor and aroma, more smokers now insist on Fatima than ever before.
Insist on the best. Fatima, extra mild and soothing, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Smoke Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
October 7th, Thursday, 1 p.m. After we got the report from Lieutenant Mort Gear that the escape car, along with a few dollars of the stolen money, had been located in San Diego that morning, Ed and I had a meeting with Captain Didion. It was beginning to look like our first hunch was right. Powell and Selby's 24-hour campaign of holdups in the Los Angeles area had netted them a fresh change of clothes and more than enough money to live on for a while. With the locating of the escape car in San Diego, it looked like the suspects were apparently taking the next logical step, a fast move over the international border into Mexico, a distance of less than 20 miles from San Diego. Probably they figured once over the line they had a good chance of losing themselves. 1:40 p.m. On Captain Didion's orders, Jess Gonzalez, Ed, and I got in the car and headed south for San Diego with a supply of mugshots of the escaped prisoners. We got there a few minutes after 4 p.m. We went directly to the San Diego PD, where we contacted Sergeant Tony McGuire, robbery detail.
Tough week, huh? Hear they've been driving you crazy up there.
Just about, Tony. 4 robberies in 24 hours, giving us a run.
How about Mort Gear? You around?
Yeah, he just went down the hall, Jess. Ought to be back in a minute. Why don't you fellas sit down?
Thanks very much. What's the latest, Tony? Anything since you picked up that blue sedan?
No, not much. Got the car in the impound, had it dusted for prints. We made them all right, both sets, Powell and Selby.
No sign of them around town?
No, got it pretty well covered, too. Not a trace.
We're in a good spot to make it over into Mexico.
Hate to disappoint you.
What do you mean?
We think they already made it.
At 6 o'clock that night, Gonzalez, Ed, and I, together with Lieutenant Gear, Tony McGuire, and Sergeants Gayton and Schultz, drove south from San Diego to the international line. We left mugshots of Powell and Selby with the immigration officers at the entry gate. Then we drove into the town of Tijuana, contacted the local commandant of police, and he promised us full cooperation. He assigned a special detail of his men to work with us in covering the town. At 8 p.m., the block-by-block canvass of the city began. Every back alley, every bar, every restaurant, every hotel, they were all checked. The tourist attractions, the souvenir stands, the nightclubs, the highlight pavilion. We went straight through on it, 8 o'clock that night until 5 o'clock the next morning. All it got us was sore feet and a mediocre lead from a native taxi driver. After being shown the mugshots, he told one of the Mexican officers in the detail that about noon that day, he'd picked up 2 Americans resembling Powell and Selby and driven them to the town of Tecate, another Mexican tourist spot about 25 miles to the east. 10:30 a.m., we drove over and checked with the police at Tecate, and they told us that 2 Americans had arrived in the town that morning. He invited Jess Gonzalez to go along with the 3 of his men to the hotel where the men were supposed to be staying. Ed and I waited in the office. Hi, Jess. What do you got?
Oh, not much. Went over to the hotel. The 2 men weren't there. Desk clerk says they told him they were driving out to a little village about a mile from here.
Mm-hmm.
Police commandant asked me to come back here and wait. Said he and his men would drive out to the village and check the men out.
That seems a little funny, doesn't it?
Well, he didn't invite me to come along. It's not a good idea to push him. I mean, after all, it's his jurisdiction.
Yeah.
We're supposed to wait here till they get back?
Yeah. I'm out to him now. Si, policia? Yeah. Si. About half an hour, yes, sir. All right, gracias. Goodbye, si. The commandant, he and his men found the 2 Americans.
Yeah?
No go. They're not Powell and Selby.
Half an hour later, the police commandant of Tecate returned to the station along with his men and the 2 American tourists in question. One look at them, and we knew we'd made the trip from Tijuana for nothing. Except for their build and the color of their hair, the 2 Americans bore little or no resemblance to Powell and Selby. 2:30 p.m., we headed back for Tijuana, and we checked in with Mort Gear and the rest of the men. While we'd been gone, they'd chased down half a dozen leads, but none of them had panned out. The rest of the afternoon, we covered the racetrack at Agua Caliente and distributed mugshots of the suspects to all track police officers. The mutual windows were covered, and also the foreign book. No luck. The 6 of us took time out for a bite of supper, and we talked it over. Logically, the next place in line to cover was either the fishing town of Ensenada on the coast or the city of Mexicali further inland. We decided to try Ensenada first. 7:30 that night, we checked in at the Ensenada police station where we met with the local sub-commandant, Pedro Martinez. Like the other commandants in Tijuana and Tecate, he offered full cooperation and gave us a special detail of men to aid in the search. We gave him a supply of mugshots of the 2 convicts to distribute among his men.
Here you are, sir. These are pictures of one of them, Andrew Powell. This one here is the other man, Bert Selby.
All right, thank you.
Juan?
Si. ¿Qué es? These pictures, Juan. Criminals. They're for distribution to the men, 1 each.
Sí. ¿Estos son los hombres?
Sí, ¿por qué?
Un momento.
Sí. Excuse me, officers.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
¿Qué pasa?
Joe, what is it?
Well, it's got me, I don't know.
See the look on his face when the chief showed him the mugshots?
Yeah, he's got something on his mind. Let's wait a minute.
Officers, I hope you will excuse me.
Yes, sir. Anything wrong?
My assistant, Teniente San Felipe. He says he knows the pictures of these men.
Oh, how's that?
He says he saw these men this morning here in Ensenada.
You ain't sure about that, is he?
Yes, sir. He says he's sure. He says the 2 men were here last night, right here in the station.
You mean your men booked them in, they committed some kind of crime?
Oh, no, sir. They came in to report a crime.
8:20 p.m. On further questioning, the assistant to the Ensenada commandant of police told us that the night before, 2 men answering Powell and Selby's description had come in to file a complaint at the central police station. They charged that they'd had their pockets picked at a local bar while they were under the influence of alcohol. The two complainants, who matched Powell's and Selby's descriptions perfectly, signed themselves J.E. Dennis and Harold Thompson, both from Fresno, California, the same names and addresses that had been used by the occupants of the Southside Los Angeles hotel room where the discarded prison uniforms had been found a day and a half before. After a brief talk with the police commandant, he dispatched a special detail to go out and pick up the two men registered as Dennis and Thompson at a motel near the south end of the city. At the commandant's request, we remained at the office. 9 p.m., 9:30. The detail assigned to the job returned, but with only one of the suspects with him, Andrew Powell. While resisting arrest, the other suspect, identified as Selby, received a cut forehead and was being taken to a local clinic for treatment. The commandant briefed us on what had happened.
The rooms were searched, Officer Friday. Some money was found, also 2 guns, a revolver and a shotgun. Here they are.
All right, thanks very much, sir. Paul, how about it? You ready to cop out?
What are you talking about, cop out? What'd you guys come all the way down here for anyway? You can't touch us.
What makes you think we can't?
You can't, that's all. You know better. You can't arrest us down here. No jurisdiction.
We didn't arrest you, Powell. The Mexican officers did.
Okay, fine. Now, how do you expect to get us out of Mexico? Guess again, copper, you know you can't do it. You haven't got the right to.
Maybe. You want to tell us where you have the loot? The money you took in those holdups?
Why should I? Look, why don't you admit it? We got you beat. We got over the line. You can't touch us down here.
I don't bet on that, mister. Commandant?
Yes, sir?
You want to tell him how it stands?
I will see that the general in charge of the Northern District is notified in the morning of your case. He will see that you and your partner are deported.
What are you trying to pull? You can't do that. You know it. It's illegal.
So's robbery, Powell. Come off it.
Doesn't make any difference. You can't touch us in Mexico. It's against the law. You can't touch us.
A popular misconception, Mr. Powell. I'm afraid you have made a mistake. If you like, you can pass the word.
How long would it be for us to receive the prisoners at the line, sir?
I don't know. A long time, I think. Maybe as long as 1 o'clock tomorrow.
You know you can't do this. You'll never get away with it. I know a lawyer in Tijuana. I'll get him to straighten it out.
You understand, Sergeant, we can't hand this man over to you now. But if you will be at the international border at 1 o'clock tomorrow, I'm sure they'll be crossing over.
You can't do this. It's illegal. You know you can't.
We're going to try.
Wasting your time? Why don't you admit it? You can't arrest us. We got over the line. We got you beat. You can't arrest us, and you know it. You know that, don't you?
There's only one thing I know for sure, Powell.
Yeah?
San Quentin. You got out, and you're going back.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On December 9th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 87, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, try a pack of Fatimas tomorrow and compare them yourself. We're so sure that you'll enjoy Fatima's extra mild and soothing smoke that we'll give you your money back if you don't enjoy Fatima more than the king-size cigarettes you've been smoking. Now, in my opinion, nothing proves our confidence in Fatima more than that. So buy a pack tomorrow. I know you'll agree with me that Fatima is the best of all king-size cigarettes. That in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Andrew Powell and Bertram Selby were deported from Mexico as undesirable aliens and turned over to U.S. authorities at the international border. They were immediately arrested by police officers on the American side and returned to Los Angeles for trial. They pled guilty to 4 counts of first-degree robbery and received sentences as prescribed by law. First-degree robbery is punishable by a prison term of from 5 years to life. After being returned to San Quentin, Powell and Selby were filed on, tried, and convicted of escape. Both of them are now serving life terms in Folsom State Penitentiary, Represa, California.
For their cooperation in preparing tonight's broadcast, Dragnet wishes to thank Chief of Police Adam E. Jansen and the San Diego Police Department.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Barney Phillips, Whit Connor, Herb Ellis. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Now it's Counter Spy on NBC.
My name's Regan. I get 10 a day in expenses from a detective bureau run by a guy named Anthony J. Lyon. They call me the Lion's Eye.
Jack Webb is Jeff Regan, Investigator, as CBS offers you hard-boiled action and mystery and thrilling adventure in tonight's story of The Lawyer and the Lady.
The Cosmopolitan Building is on 7th Street near Olive, downtown L.A. International Detective Bureau is up on the 3rd floor, Suite 308. Right across from an elevator that hasn't been inspected since 29, when the guy who built the place took a vacation up at Folsom. I always use the stairs. Well, the plaster's bad, but the rent's cheap, and the Lion says his office is just the kind of place that invites business. He's got a leather chair there, about the shape of a fallen biscuit. That's for him to relax on. And right next to a desk with some blank checks and an inkwell, there's a hard, straight chair. That's for the client. The Lion got mad when our last customer asked if the chair was wired. Well, when I walked in last Thursday night about 6 o'clock, he was staring at that empty chair. Wishful thinking.
Regan! Christmas is coming.
Well, that's news.
It's the time of year when everybody's nice to everybody else.
Somebody give you a calendar?
I got better than that. It's a check.
From who?
His name's Kramer. He's a big lawyer.
We need one again?
He's our new client. He wants to see you.
What about?
He'll tell you.
You tell me.
I want you to be nice to him. He's a big man. His office is in the Park Central building. Abercrombie, Kramer, and Schmidt.
A trio.
It's an important legal firm in this city.
Well, what's the job?
I told you he'd give you all of it.
Look, the last time I waited for a client to talk, he died.
Now, look here. The kind of dough he pays, you could do janitor work for him and not ask questions.
Oh, you never learn.
This is a certified check. Came by special messenger. He's waiting for you now.
What else?
The message said he wanted all this done confidentially. No police. You understand?
You'd kidnap your own mother for cash.
You're not alive.
And then you'd starve to death charging yourself ransom.
I'm going to be patient with you, Regan.
No, this is another rotten deal.
These big legal outfits can't afford to be dishonest.
You've been making a living doing it.
Kramer's in legitimate practice. I checked on
Oh, sure you
I pay your salary, and I take things as I see them.
Well, you need stronger glasses. Well, I left him sitting there holding the check up to the light. He had both arms above his head. He reminded me of a two-armed slot machine. I walked the 4 blocks over to the Park Central building, and an elevator operator with a cardboard collar took me up to the 7th floor. Abercrombie, Kramer, and Schmidt had a flock of stables in the back for the fire escape. The names were hung out in silver. I figured if they were ambulance chasers, they used a motorcycle escort. I opened the door and stepped into a green carpet that needed mowing. Then I heard a noise at the deep end where the trout stream should have been. She had hair the color of smoke. The rest of her spiraled up to match. But she looked unhappy, like a termite in a granite quarry. She glanced at her typewriter, and then up at me. The Remington 1.
We've already ordered our Christmas cards. Get them in July.
Well, maybe I'm not selling.
You should. You're the type.
Kramer in?
He might be. But he never sends cards. Doesn't believe in Christmas.
Well, he sent my office a check.
Did he? What office is that?
I'm Regan, International Detective Bureau.
Stick to greeting cards.
Kramer sent for me.
Oh? He wants protection, huh?
You tell me.
Maybe it's something else.
Now, let's find out.
In a minute. He's busy right now.
What's the matter with Abercrombie?
He's dead.
Schmidt?
Wishes he was. Palm Springs with a hangover.
Yeah, real nice bunch. How long you worked for him?
Too long. My jokes are newer.
Well, Benny's making a move. Maybe he'll hire you.
I don't like funny men. What do you do when you're not working?
All depends on who I'm with.
Thought maybe you were antisocial. That's Kramer's.
I was ahead of her trying the door, but it was locked from the inside. She fumbled around on the desk and finally brought out a key. Kramer was sitting at his desk holding onto the front of his shoulder. His face was white and he wasn't feeling too good.
Fire escape. He got through there. And he called Dr. Sorensen. This wouldn't look good in the papers. No police.
That's a big order.
Well, that's a big hole in his shoulder. too late to start looking around the fire escape, and when Dr. Sorensen showed up, he called a private ambulance and had Kramer taken to a private hospital. The doc said he wouldn't be able to talk until morning, and, well, if they wanted it quiet, there was no sense getting homicide all excited. Emmy went to the hospital with him, and I hung around the office for a little while. Everything was locked up tight. The files, his desk, and the liquor cabinet. So I figured it was time to give the lion the nod. I doused the lights and went downstairs. Outside, the street was kind of vacant except for a steamroller with whiskers washing down the gutters. It dodged around a big green car parked by the curb, and then it swivel-hipped around my car, where a little guy in a trench coat was leaning in looking at my registration tag. When I tapped him on the shoulder, he looked confused, like he was trying to catch a cyclone on a paper bag.
Huh?
You looking for something?
Oh, no. No, just,
Looking.
Yeah, that's right. Looking.
Come on, blow your nose.
A little cold, that's all.
Tell me about it before your throat gets sore.
I told you, just looking.
The car belongs to the finance company in case you got extra keys.
No, Pilgrim. Never borrowed a buggy in my life.
You can't drive.
How'd you guess?
Come on, you. Let's pour it out.
Sure. You the guy?
What guy?
Guy that says that. Regan.
I might be.
Don't want to make a mistake.
Deal, will you?
Somebody wants to see you.
Who?
Guy.
Well, I don't know him.
Yeah. Guy says please.
Reads Emily Post.
That's right. Friend of mine. Weighs 285 pounds. He's across the street in the ice cream parlor. Last stool on the end.
Well, I'll tell you, somebody else is carrying my books home today.
Oh, we wouldn't care. Big man. Gonna see him?
Can't he walk?
Says if you argue, mention the name Kramer. Now you gonna see him?
How can I miss? He weighs 285 pounds. Oh, it didn't figure, but sometimes you look and nothing figures. Kramer had taken one in the shoulder, and before he'd been able to talk, the lights had gone out, and he wound up in a hospital. Well, somebody had an angle, and maybe it was the guy across the street. I found him sitting all alone, about 300 pounds of beard in a plaid coat. He was picking all the strawberries out of his ice cream. Hey, you sent for me?
Mm-hmm. Regan?
You got it.
Have something. Great banana split here. 4 kinds of ice cream.
I'm on a diet.
Oh, I never worry about things like that. It's a mistake. You only live once. Know me?
You got a name?
Spec Jameson. You know me now?
You got a grudge with Kramer?
Yeah.
You shot at him from the fire escape.
I did? When?
Half hour ago.
Anybody see me?
No.
That's good. How'd I do?
He got it in the shoulder. He'll live.
Up to that point, it could have been me.
Well, it's going to make a good story for the police.
For anybody. I'm clean as a whistle. You sure you won't have something?
Now, look, I got a date, Fatso. Let's fan this out.
Oh, sure.
How about Kramer?
Oh, yeah. Where'd you say he was?
Hospital.
Oh, yeah. He hire you for protection?
Maybe.
Regan, you got a lot to learn about life.
No, just about living.
You catch on quick.
To what?
Now, you take me, for instance.
Your complexion's not so good.
It'll improve. Besides, I don't like trouble, Regan.
You'll have to get used to it.
It's just there's some things a man can't stand. Can't take lying down.
Name 3.
No, I just want you to understand I know what I'm doing, that's all. And this is what I'm doing. All right, Regan. Back on your feet.
Yeah, they serve ice cream in big dishes,
I'll
don't
give
they?
you a boost. Here's my hand.
Take off the knuckles.
Quiet, Regan. There's some more metal in my pocket.
I don't need a Geiger counter.
I said you were smart. Now get this. It's a clean sweep. You're staying out of it.
Suppose I stick around.
Then I'll unglue you.
I left him sitting there with his ice cream. Wouldn't have done any good to trade fists with him. But there was something in the way he talked about Kramer and the shooting that made it a Sunday puzzle. I found a phone booth and put in a call to the Lion.
Regan, where you been? You see Kramer? What'd he say?
Well, now, which one do you want first?
What about Kramer?
He was all shot up.
Target practice?
Some guy with a grudge.
If he plays like that, yell cop.
Look, they'll want to see you. No police, remember?
What are you talking about?
Another bum client.
Why do these things always happen to me?
Because your palm is faster than your brain.
Every case has it.
Look, this is a 3-ring circus, and we haven't even got any peanuts.
Well, maybe I should have found out what he wanted.
Oh, you say that now.
Who's got the grudge?
A sweet tooth. Calls himself Spec Jameson.
Spec, where's he fitted?
He wouldn't stand still to show me his tea leaves.
You talked to?
We met.
When people start asking questions, we don't want to be stuck without any answers. You get out and run down some dope on this man Spec.
What are you going to do?
Don't worry, I'll take care of my end.
Yeah, most people do. Well, this job had more ups and downs than the Berlin airlift. I turned the phone book over to some drunk with a beer breath, and I walked over a couple of blocks to the morgue. I mean, the one where they keep dead newspapers. I got a friend who works in the file room of the L.A. Times. After 15 years of it, he's got about as much adrenaline as an old magazine in the attic.
Nope. No, I never heard of a Spec Jameson. Probably a nickname, isn't it? You know, Spec, short for glasses?
Yeah, I caught the drift.
Thought I was going to say spectacles, didn't you?
Hey, look, let's try this for size.
Yeah.
Big fat guy, but always hungry.
Mention any friend?
Kramer, and he wasn't a friend.
Spec Adams in last Thursday's paper.
What'd he do?
Executed the same day in Sing Sing.
Spec Jameson.
Uh-huh. Released from Quentin day before yesterday.
Let me see.
That's all it says. Serve full 10-year sentence, continuous on 4 counts.
Somebody threw a book at him.
Yeah, maybe. Tell you in a minute.
Try December 38.
This case would have come up in November. Yeah, there we are. Yeah, you take these.
Yeah.
Hey, look at the funny skirts. Short, weren't they? Hey, here's one. War impossible, says
Look,
Bennett.
let's stick to the subject.
November 17th, Jameson appeal denied.
Read it, man.
A lot of stuff. He was in the rackets.
Go on.
Judge said unusual completeness of prosecution's case made retrial impossible. Continuous sentence upheld.
Who was the judge?
Govern, he's dead. Here's what you want. Special Prosecutor Joseph W. Kramer.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Joseph W. Kramer was brilliant and relentless work for the forces of good in Los Angeles.
Yes, it's for you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah?
Mr. Regan?
Yeah.
This is Emmy, Mr. Kramer's secretary. Are you always this hard to find?
Well, that depends on where you look.
Mr. Kramer wants to see you.
You talking now?
He's feeling much better. The doctor said it was just a flesh wound.
What kind?
38.
All right. Where's the hospital?
It's a little place on Hawthorne. Mrs. Kramer will show you. If you don't mind going by the Biltmore and picking her up.
I haven't got my car.
Use Mr. Kramer's. It's in the garage there.
Is she expecting me?
I phoned.
15 minutes.
Good. He wants to thank you for what you did.
Well, what'd I do?
Kept the police out of it.
Well, it's his show, but it may close.
What do you mean?
I ran into Spec Jameson.
Oh?
Now, you still want the police out of it?
I don't know. Mr. Kramer will tell you when he sees you.
You sound like you're changing jobs. So I went over to the garage, and I picked up his car, and then I drove to the hotel entrance. While I was arguing with the cab driver, Mrs. Kramer walked out. 45, a little tired around the eyes. She was wearing a white sheet, double bed size, under a mink coat that must have set somebody back $10,000. She didn't look like a wife that Kramer had had.
I hope this isn't inconveniencing you.
No, it's not.
Are you sure my husband's all right?
He's talking, according to Emmy.
Emmy. She's there with him.
She's his secretary.
Funny, isn't it? I'm his wife, yet she spends more time with him than I do.
Well, that's business.
Even now. When he's been hurt, she's there first.
She was there when it happened.
Of course. I guess I... Oh, never mind. You're a detective, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right.
Mr. Kramer hired you to protect him from that Jameson.
I never found out. Maybe.
I've been so worried about him. At the trial, Jameson said he'd kill him if it was the last thing he ever did. You know, I always thought it was taking an awful...
Hey, take it easy, lady.
You know the story.
Emmy?
She's young and pretty. I have to spend my time at bridge fights.
Does it help?
No.
How long you been married to him?
Next month, 18 years. I don't look the same way anymore.
Neither does he.
Funny what life does to you, isn't it? I was his secretary. Once. That's how I met him.
Look, how far to the hospital?
It's only a few more blocks. You go straight
Hang
down.
Who do you know that drives the big green Nash?
No one.
Well, he knows us. Been following us since we left the hotel.
How do you...
Is he still with us?
Yes. I can't understand a thing like this happening. Why would anybody want to follow us?
Maybe it's a friend of your husband's.
Jameson?
He tried once tonight. Maybe it'd be better to get you.
I'm scared.
Come on, get out, get out.
Mr. Regan!
The green Nash had been tailing me. I shook it on the last corner. There are lots of them, but it might have been the same one that was parked by my car downtown earlier. Oh, it made no sense, but I wasn't taking any chances. Only before I could get the door open, the Nash came sliding around the other side of the block. I shoved Mrs. Kramer into the floorboards and slid into the... A lot of glass got broken fast. By the time I could separate my teeth from the clutch pedal, the car had gone. I shook Mrs. Kramer, but she didn't shake. She was dead.
You are listening to the story of The Lawyer and the Lady, tonight's adventure with Jeff Regan, Investigator. Listen, this is good news. Good news for you if you're between the ages of 20 and 26 and a half, married or single, a high school graduate, and want to fly for the United States Air Force. Yes, the Air Force Aviation Cadet Program is offering you the opportunity to become a pilot officer in the mightiest Air Force in history. You can be one of the Air Force's men of renown. And there's more offered than the pride you feel in being a member of America's flying team. For after your 52 weeks of training, you'll graduate as a second lieutenant in the Air Force with an income of more than $300 per month. Remember, the Air Force offers you what it offered General Jimmy Doolittle, General Carl Spaatz, and General Hoyt Vandenberg. Now, at 42, the Air Force Chief of Staff. Call at your local Army and Air Force recruiting station tomorrow. Apply to become an aviation cadet. And now, back to the story of The Lawyer and the Lady and Jeff Regan, Investigator.
Well, it all made sense, like a you-bangy with a piccolo. It started when the Lion sent me over to see a lawyer named Kramer. I got there just in time to meet Emmy, his receptionist, and find Kramer with a bullet in his shoulder. The hospital took over, and I left. That's when I ran into Spec Jameson, an ex-con who Kramer put away some 10 years ago. He turned out to have a lot of stomach and a big hate for the lawyer. And then I got a call from Emmy to pick up Mrs. Kramer. I did, and the shots began, and she ended up a candidate for the city morgue. Well, I called homicide, and I sent out some boys to clean up. I gave them what I knew, and I moved on out to see Kramer. The Angels of Mercy Hospital turned out to be a private place off Hawthorne. 2 stories of cement set down in the middle of a clover field. It figured that they only held a thermometer to patients that could make a big noise with a cash register. Kramer showed in an upstairs room next to a fire escape. He was climbing into an overcoat. And when he saw me, he looked unhappy, like a pointer with a broken tail.
Well, Regan, I'm glad you came to see me.
Tell me that later.
What do you mean?
How's the shoulder?
Oh, a little annoying, but it's all right.
Now, that figures.
Why?
It was a neat shot, just enough to raise a little fever.
What are you driving at?
Give it a chance. It'll sink in.
Come on, let's get out of here.
All right.
Picked up my wife downtown?
Yeah.
Good. She worries a lot. You know, tell you what, Regan, I'll send a check around in the morning for another 100. That all right?
Make it 1,000.
What's that for?
Insurance against guys like you.
Never mind that, Regan.
Why didn't you tell the Lion what you wanted in the first place?
I didn't know.
I got another story.
Well, you're wrong.
You knew Spec Jameson was out.
No reason I should tell you that.
I'm rehearsing a witness, that's all.
What?
Yeah, now let's hear what you did to him.
Nothing, not a thing. He can tell you that.
In 38, you got the book thrown at him.
He was a public enemy.
So's Smog.
Regan, a man in my position...
Maybe that's it. Maybe you're the kind of shyster that builds a rap on convictions.
Well, grant you would help. That's all you want.
So he hated you.
He made threats.
What cooled him off?
$10,000.
When?
After I discovered he meant business, I sent someone with the money.
Figured Jameson forget everything for cash.
Men of his stripe always will.
You made a mistake.
Everybody does sometimes. I guess Jameson is still using his gun.
No.
But my shoulder will mend.
Your wife won't.
What do you mean?
She's dead.
No.
Homicide will tell you different.
I'd better go down to see them.
Yeah.
That bullet was meant for me.
Yeah, like you said, everybody makes mistakes. Well, we climbed in the taxi and headed for headquarters. Kramer looked confused. He mumbled a few words about what a good cook his wife had been, how he'd always tried to protect her from the stuff that he'd done to make a success. He was the kind of guy that always figured it was better to make a deal than face facts. Now he had to face a backfire. Well, there were a couple of newspaper photographers in front of the place. Kramer's shoulders dropped a couple of notches, then he headed for inside. I started in behind him, but an arm stopped me.
Regan, come here.
What are you doing out of bed?
Sit up. Get back in the taxi.
Look out, that meter will bite you.
I'm not paying the fare. Downtown, driver. Okay, Mike.
You know the cops are going to love you for this.
They can hear your side of it later.
Sure, and you'll stand behind me.
Now, Regan, I'll tell you how I speak of this. She gets killed. It was a mistake.
Oh, now, that takes a big brain.
Kramer's got enemies. Said enemy didn't the wife Regan to get Kramer.
That's the last chapter.
And we'd like the next one. Turn in said enemy, and we'll pick us up a nice fat reward.
Homicide started with Jameson already.
They're going to be surprised.
What do you mean?
He didn't do it.
How do you know?
I look into things. That's how I know.
Well, all right, big shot. Open it up.
It goes this way. 15 minutes after I talked to you, I put a call into the cops.
Saying what?
That I don't like my operator being threatened by ex-cons. What happens?
You tell me.
The police themselves take Jameson out of circulation. He was locked up before Mrs. Kramer got found. He's sitting in the Hollywood Station House right now with a smile on his face.
Talking?
No. Eating ice cream.
Well, now it really made sense, like a mermaid on a bicycle. If Jameson didn't throw the lead, I had to find out who did. The taxi dropped me off downtown across from the Park Central building, and I started up the elevator to Kramer's office. It figured to be the time to get a look inside that locked desk. When I opened the door marked Abercrombie, Kramer, and Schmidt, the place was dark. I moved into Kramer's office and started a little work on the desk. It took me about 10 minutes to get inside. Nothing showed in the first two drawers, but in the third, I picked up a box of Panatellas and I looked under it. That's where I found a .38 with one bullet missing. Well, ballistics could do something about it, so I crammed it in my overcoat pocket and I started outside. That's when the door opened and the little guy with a runny nose walked in. He was wearing a suit the color of an avocado and his face looked like a fried banana.
It's a nice rug, huh?
You from the cleaners?
I make my own spots. Sit down, Regan. We're going to talk.
I'll take it standing.
We prefer you sitting.
It's your gun.
More natural that way.
You got a name, Buster?
They call me the Dove.
The bird.
No cracks. Just the Dove.
Peace mission?
It is. Resting.
All right, what is it this time?
Where's Kramer?
China.
Regan, you're an unlucky contestant.
If you don't like my answers, try somebody else.
That's what I'm doing, correcting mistakes.
Like shooting the wrong guy.
Like leaving a witness. I had to get rid of my Nash on account of you.
You killed her, now you're waiting for her husband.
Of course I killed her, but don't try to change the subject. See what I'm talking about now.
Well, I don't like the spotlight.
You should have stuck your nose in here, Regan. It'll bleed.
Well, let's start with yours. I dove for him, and the gun went off, only it wasn't pointed at me. Kramer was standing in the doorway, pulling a trigger like a kid at a bubblegum machine. I figured the floor was safer, so I flattened out. The Dove tried the same, only he hit the wastebasket.
Did I get him?
Well, he looks as dead as he'll ever be.
A cheap murdering...
Look, let me hold the gun, huh, Kramer?
Yes. Oh, Regan, there's a bottle in the cabinet there.
Sure. Here you are.
Thank you.
What are you going to do now?
I don't know. Call the police, I guess.
I thought you were with them.
I came down in their car to get some of my files.
On the old Jameson case?
Yes.
You want to tell me?
Oh, it's about as you know. He was a small-time grifter. I gave myself a big name by prosecuting him, built my business and the reputation it gave me.
You told the police why he hates you?
Oh, yes. I intend to stand trial for killing this man.
You're growing up, Kramer.
Who was he, anyway?
The Dove.
No driver's license. Oh, yes, here it is. Dove Duval. Regan, look at this.
That's a lot of money.
It's $10,000. Same amount of money I sent to Jameson to stay away from me. Looks like the chickens came home to roost, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Well, police are waiting. I'd better go and tell them about this.
Go on.
You coming?
No, I'll meet you there, Kramer. I got a late date. I gave the boys downstairs the high sign, then I moved out of there fast. I found Emmy's place just off Normandy. It was a brand-new duplex with a gilt-edged driveway and stocks and bonds for awnings. For a business girl, she really did all right. I was a couple of hours overdue, but the girl with the smoky hair knew how to wait. There was a candle burning in her window and 2 more in her eyes. It took me a little time.
But now you're here. Well, aren't you going to do something about it?
Yeah. Talk.
Mr. Regan, what's the matter with you?
I've been working hard.
Oh, is that all?
Now listen, lady. This is just too packed, too neat. The ends tied together like Siamese twins.
I'm alone.
Yeah, but you don't want to be. Your boss just rubbed out a killer named Dove.
What?
It was self-defense. I'm a witness, and he'll be out of it inside a week.
Well, then what are we bothering about?
A guy named Jameson. Nobody will believe him.
Why should they?
Because they didn't hire the Dove.
Who did?
You.
Oh, Mr. Regan.
All right, maybe it was your boss. He primed me with a story about giving Jameson 10 G's. Only one ever saw that dough was the Dove.
Well?
That was his price for killing Mrs. Kramer.
You're out in left field, Mr. Regan. I was working.
You were keeping me outside till Kramer could throw a small bullet into his shoulder.
Why would he do that?
To point up that Jameson was still after him.
But he was.
I figured different. And homicide's going to like my way.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, this gun has a different version.
Where'd you get it?
Kramer's bottom drawer. And the caliber is going to fit the hole in your boss's shoulder.
Well, that's it. You've got it all now.
Yeah. You know, you got a real nice hair.
Yeah?
That San Quentin water's going to ruin it. Well, the whole thing came apart like a paper hat in a shower bath. Seems that when Jameson got out of prison and threatened Kramer, the lawyer and his secretary figured that it was a good time to get rid of the wife. I suppose she interfered with their skiing or something. Anyway, they hired the Dove to do the job and then got rid of him just so he couldn't ever come to bat for the fall guy, Jameson. Yeah, they had a perfect frame fixed for him, and I was picked to decorate the edges, only it didn't work. Everybody was positive about this one. Kramer knew he was going to win. Emmy knew she was in for a big cut, and the Lion knew he was going to collect a fat fee. They should have all figured it. This is the year for upsets.
Jack Webb is featured as Jeff Regan with Herb Butterfield as Anthony J. Lyon. It's CBS at the same time next week for more hard-boiled action and mystery with Jeff Regan, Investigator. Written by Jackson Gillis and D. Jack Newman. Produced by Sterling Tracy. Featured in tonight's story were Carol Matthews, Marvin Miller, Lou Krugman, Herb Vigran, Mary Lansing, and Larry Dodkin. Original music for this program is by Milton Charles. This is Bob Stevenson speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to homicide detail. A 38-year-old woman disappears. She leaves her sister and her 4 children behind. There's evidence of foul play. Your job, find her.
In Fatima, the difference is quality.
Yes, in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Prove it yourself today. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you're now smoking.
Buy Fatima in the bright sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Monday, June 3rd. It was overcast in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Ed Jacobs. The boss is Thad Brown, chief of detectives. My name's Friday. I was on the way back from communications, and it was 8:15 a.m. when I got to room 42. Homicide.
Joe, what's doing?
Hi, Brian. You seen Ed?
He went down the hall a minute, said he'd be right back.
Oh, thank you. I don't see anything in the book. Nothing new, huh?
Not much. Pretty slow. How's your mother, Joe? Heard she wasn't feeling too well.
No, she's not, as a matter of fact. Doctor says it's anemia. It's going to take a little time to get over it, I guess.
No, sorry to hear it. I got to do some checking down at the auto desk. If I get any calls, have them switch it down there, will you?
Yeah, I sure will, Brian.
Thanks.
You betcha.
Oh, excuse me, Ed.
Pardon me, Tom.
Hi, Ed. What'd they give you?
Missing report, woman. How about the mail?
No, it's nothing. Is that the missing report there?
Yeah, it's all here. Some woman out on 64th Street, name's Rose Baker. She's been gone about a week.
Mm-hmm. Last seen Tuesday, May 27th, 10 p.m. Who's this that made the report? Carl Shelton? Who's he?
It's her boyfriend. Miss Baker's husband died about 5 years ago. She's been running around quite a bit since then. Had a lot of man trouble.
Well, she disappeared before then, huh?
Yeah, half a dozen times. Never been gone this long, though. Holmes took this report from Shelton. He gathered Miss Baker's not too stable. She's known to drink quite a bit. Doesn't seem to care anything for her home or kids.
Yeah, I see it here. She has 4 children. They're living with her aunt, Mrs. Baker's sister. It's kind of a funny arrangement, isn't it?
Yeah. Baker woman packed her bags and walked out of the house about a year ago. Her sister's been taking care of the kids ever since. Mother comes back for a visit once in a while.
Mm-hmm. This address we've got on Mrs. Baker, it's the same address as her boyfriend, Carl Shelton.
Yeah, that's right. They both have apartments in the same building.
Is this a recent picture of Miss Baker?
Supposed to be, yeah. It's a nice-looking woman, huh?
Yeah. Sister's listed here as the last person who saw her. Well, how's that? Baker woman still wasn't living at home, was she?
According to the sister, Mrs. Baker came over to the house to see her the night she disappeared, sometime around 8 o'clock. 2 of them had some business to talk over.
Mm-hmm.
Seems the sister had a check for $400 she got from selling some furniture. Claimed the kids had been sick. She had doctor bills to pay.
You mean Mrs. Baker's sister took care of things to that extent?
Apparently. Anyway, after the sister got the check for selling the furniture, Miss Baker wanted half the money. Sister said that's why she came to see her that night. 2 of them got in the car and went out to find somebody to cash the check.
Mm-hmm.
You want a drink of water?
No, thanks, man. Where do you get a $400 check cashed at 8 o'clock at night? Would you know?
Sister said Miss Baker knew somebody who'd cash it for him. Turned out the person couldn't cash it. Sister stopped at a bar for a glass of beer. Mrs. Baker took the car and went to look up somebody else she thought could cash it. That was it. Mrs. Baker hadn't been seen since.
Who was this somebody else?
No idea. Sister claims she doesn't know. Mrs. Baker didn't tell her.
Sounds like Mrs. Baker wanted the whole check, wouldn't you say?
That's what the sister figured when Mrs. Baker didn't come back. She finished the glass of beer, left the bar, and started walking home. 2 blocks from the house, she found her car parked. No sign of Mrs. Baker. Car keys were in the glove compartment, so it's the sister's share of the money, $200 in cash.
Well, how about the firm that issued the check? They get it back canceled?
Yeah, a couple of days ago. Mrs. Baker's endorsement on the back.
Yeah, sounds pretty wild, doesn't it?
Whole thing does. Talked to half a dozen people who saw Mrs. Baker that night, and none of their stories jibe.
What do you mean?
Her boyfriend, Carl Shelton, he claims Mrs. Baker told him she was going out of town for a few days with a girlfriend.
They check it out?
Yeah. Girlfriend didn't know anything about it. Then they talked to a woman who works with Mrs. Baker. She says, yeah, the Baker woman was planning a trip.
Miss Baker mention anything about it to her sister?
No, sister says Miss Baker told her just the opposite. Said she was getting out of her apartment into a new place. She was going to spend the next couple of days moving. They checked the boyfriend, Shelton. Said if Miss Baker was moving, was news to him.
Well, either she's a liar or one of her friends are, huh?
It's all bollock stuff. No two stories anywhere near alike.
What do they figure for a motive? They got a line on anybody who might have wandered out of the way?
Big field to pick from. She fought with Carl Shelton. She fought with his sister, some of the people she worked with. She had 3 or 4 other men around town on the string, too. Any one of them could have wanted her out of the way.
All her relatives been checked out and all her friends, places she'd be most likely to go?
All checked. Not a trace of her, nothing.
Yeah, I guess we better start moving on it. A lot of ground to cover. See if we can't straighten out some of those stories.
One thing's sure. Somebody's lying.
8:35 a.m. Before we left the city hall, we checked with Sergeant Holmes in Missing Persons, who'd taken the report on Rose Baker's disappearance. He had nothing to add to what was in the report and what he'd already told Ed. First on the interview list was the sister of the missing woman, Bernice Marin. She was employed as a saleswoman for a grocery supply firm. We called at the home where Miss Marin lived with her 4 nieces and nephews, but there was no answer. The next-door neighbor told us that Miss Marin was working, that she usually didn't get home until 4:15 or 4:30 in the afternoon. In the meantime, we figured we might as well check the next name on the list, Mrs. Baker's boyfriend, Carl Shelton. We'd already checked him through R&I, and he had no record. We drove out to his address, a 3-story apartment house on 64th Street. Shelton's apartment was on the main floor rear. He answered the door in his bathrobe and slippers. He told us that he was employed at one of the local oil refineries, and that this particular week he was working the graveyard shift, 11 at night until 7 in the morning. He showed us back to a small kitchen at the rear of the apartment. While we questioned him, he fixed a percolator of coffee and put it on the stove.
You're sure about Miss Baker's plans, are you? She never mentioned anything to you about moving out of the apartment house here?
No, never. Somebody's handing you a line there. If Rosie was going to move, she'd tell me about it. Just a minute, I got to get that coffee. It looks about done. You fellas want some Java? Got a whole pot full here.
No, thank you. How long did you say you've known Miss Baker?
Oh, about a year and a half. We got along pretty good. Did right from the start. Sure don't understand her taking off like this.
Miss Baker ever talk to you much about the family? Her sister, 4 children? I mean, did you see them regularly? Seem to get along with them all right to you?
I don't think I'd know that. Rosie never had much to say about them. The only thing I could gather was that she just got sick of the routine, you know. Keeping up a house, doing the wash, mopping, dusting, taking care of 4 kids. She just checked out, that's all. Let her sister Bernice take over.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask me, she never should have had a family to begin with. Rosie isn't the kind. She's a party girl, likes a good time, you know what I mean?
One thing I don't understand, Shelton. You said a minute ago you couldn't figure out Miss Baker's going off like this. When you filed a missing report on her, you said she was planning a trip out of town.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, isn't it possible she might have taken off without telling you?
No, I don't think so. She'd have told me. She's planning a trip, all right, but she wasn't going to leave till the next night, Wednesday night. She's going to pick up this girlfriend of hers, Iris, and the 2 of them were going to take the bus down to Laguna for a couple of days.
Well, it's our understanding this girlfriend, Iris, didn't know anything about the trip. Can you explain that?
I don't know. I guess Rosie forgot to tell her. Can't figure these women sometimes. Maybe she was going to phone her Wednesday morning. She knew Iris could get away almost any time.
And you think it's possible she might have gone down to Laguna by herself?
No, that's not like Rosie. Besides, before I went in to report her missing, I called a couple of places down Laguna where Rosie usually stops at. They hadn't seen her.
Possible she might have gone some other place?
No, without telling me, no. Besides, she wouldn't go alone. I know that.
Sheldon, we understand Mrs. Baker was friendly with 2 or 3 other men around town. You think it's possible she might have gone someplace with one of them? Sheldon?
No, I can't buy that. If it was 8 months ago, I'd say maybe, but not now.
Why not?
Well, we had it out, that's all. It was all settled. She wouldn't do anything like that again.
You pretty sure about that, are you?
Yeah, positive. I don't get it at all. She wouldn't do that to me, taking off, just packing up and leaving. Rosie wouldn't do that to me.
Well, she's got 4 children.
Yeah.
She did it to them. We questioned Carl Shelton for another half hour, but he failed to come up with anything in the way of a definite lead. 10:40 a.m. We drove to the home of the missing woman's girlfriend, an Iris Kirby. 2 things she was pretty definite about. She knew nothing about an out-of-town trip Mrs. Baker was supposed to have planned for the 2 of them. And secondly, she had no use for Carl Shelton. She told us that Shelton was her ex-boyfriend and that she had introduced him to Rose Baker, and that shortly after that he dropped her. A few weeks later, Shelton began to keep steady company with Mrs. Baker. Outside of her personal grievance against Shelton, Iris Kirby had nothing to offer in the way of a lead to the whereabouts of her friend. 11:30 a.m., we got in the car and headed for the factory in the south end of town where Rose Baker was employed. We stopped off on the way for lunch, a bowl of soup and a sandwich. Ed had a cheeseburger and a piece of pie. Before we left, we checked the office to see if there were any calls. Nothing. The place where Mrs. Baker worked was on Santa Fe Avenue, a one-story building covering almost half a block. They manufactured men's work clothes, shirts, and overalls. We checked with the personnel office. We asked if Rose Baker had any friends that she worked with. We were told that there was a Mildred Dunn who was a fairly close friend of the Baker woman. Ed and I waited in the office while they sent down to the plant for Mildred Dunn.
Ms. Dunn?
That's right.
Police officers. My name's Jacobs. This is my partner, Sergeant Friday.
How do you do?
How are you? I'd like to ask you a few questions about Rose Baker, Mrs. Dunn. I understand you're a pretty close friend of hers?
Yes, that's right. I've known Rose ever since she came here. She works on the machine next to me. She come home yet?
No, not yet. You remember Miss Baker saying anything to you about taking a trip, Ms. Dunn? I mean, just before she disappeared?
Yes, she did. She'd been looking forward to it. That's probably where she is, don't you think, off on her trip?
Well, we don't know, ma'am. Did she mention anything definite about the trip to you, where she was going, when she was leaving?
Well, I think she was going to Laguna Beach. It's hard to tell. She's always kidding around, Rose is. Once she said she was going to fly to Switzerland for a vacation. San Moritz. She's always kidding around like that.
Oh, that's so?
Like once when she had a date with Fred, she said she was going to the pump room in Chicago. You know, just being funny.
I see. Who is this Fred, Mrs. Dunn?
Fella in the shipping department, Fred Lyons. Nice fella.
He and Mrs. Baker see much of each other?
They used to, yes, quite a bit. I don't know if they were serious about each other. I thought they were till the last month or so. Maybe they had a tiff or something. Maybe Rose got tired of him. I don't know.
But you do think the two of them were serious at one time?
Oh, yes. It wasn't more than a month ago. Then all of a sudden they weren't sweet on each other. At least Rose wasn't about him. She told me that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess we better check on him, Ed.
Mm-hmm.
Is this Fred Lyons working today? Do you know, ma'am?
Oh, no. He quit last Tuesday.
1:15 p.m. We finished questioning Mildred Dunn, and we went back to the personnel office to get Fred Lyons' description and last known address. We checked out the address, but Lyons had moved out the previous Tuesday and left no forwarding address. We questioned the landlady, looked over his rooms, checked through the neighborhood, and talked to everybody he knew. We found nothing to indicate that Lyons had anything directly to do with Rose Baker's disappearance. But we did find out that he knew Mrs. Baker and that he thought quite a bit of her. We went back to the office, got out a broadcast and an APB on Lyons.
Want to check the book, Joe, see if we got any late calls there?
Yeah, sure.
I'll get it.
Right.
Homicide, Jacobs. That's right. Mm-hmm. Are they sure? What was that? All right, thank you. Got something.
Yeah?
Hollywood Division. Woman's purse found in the vacant lot out there. High school kid found it. A lot of identification inside.
Yeah.
Rose Baker.
3:15 p.m. The purse was brought downtown to the crime lab for detailed examination. Bryan and Barrett from Homicide went out to interview the boy who found the purse and to check the neighborhood where it was discovered. Meantime, Ed and I drove out to talk to the missing woman's sister, 36 years old, Bernice Marin. She and her sister's 4 children lived in a 5-room stucco house just off Exposition Boulevard. We got there shortly after Miss Marin returned home from her job. Her 2 older nephews were out in front cutting the lawn. She showed us into a neatly kept living room where we interviewed her. She was a plain-looking woman, brown hair, gray eyes. She showed little concern about her sister's disappearance.
I gave up trying to keep track of her a long time ago, Sergeant. I haven't any idea where she's gone. I used to worry about her. I don't anymore.
Well, how about that purse of hers that was found this afternoon, Miss Marin? Wouldn't you say that makes it a little unusual this time?
I don't think so. She loses things all the time. I don't know what she does when she goes off on those things. I don't want to know. Gets drunk and does a lot of fooling around, I suppose. She's lost 2 or 3 purses the same way.
What about last Tuesday, the night she disappeared? You notice if she'd been drinking then?
Yeah, I got the idea she'd had a couple of highballs before she came over. She wasn't drunk, but she wasn't feeling any pain. I'll say, would you excuse me? I want to yell at the kids out there.
Yes, ma'am.
Frank, that's enough of that playing around out there. Let's get started pushing that lawnmower, huh?
Okay, just trying out a new system. Almost half done now.
You better hurry it up. You still got the backyard to do, remember?
Yeah, okay.
The only good thing that came out of that marriage, Sergeant, those kids out there.
Yes, ma'am.
There's 2 more besides Frank and Bobby, the girls, my nieces. One's 9, one's 7.
Mm-hmm.
Marvelous kids. Girls are just as pretty as pictures. I'm glad I have a chance to take care of them. I guess they're just like kids. Can't understand it when people don't appreciate them. I don't have a family of my own.
Oh, I see.
Miss Marin, when you were with your sister last Tuesday night, you say she didn't mention anything at all about taking that trip out of town?
No, just the opposite. Like I told you. She said she was moving out of her apartment into a new place. That's why she needed the money.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's the story about this money your sister came to pick up, Miss Marin? I don't think I quite got that clear.
Well, we have this baby grand piano that my mother gave Rose and me just before she died. Kids have been sick the last couple of months, one thing and another. I needed a little money to catch up on some doctor bills, so I sold the piano. I hated to do it, but the bills had to be paid. Mm-hmm. Well, Rose found out about it somehow, and she wanted half of the money I got for the piano. She wanted the money for herself. Can you imagine that? She wasn't even willing to pay for her own kids' doctor bills. It'd be different if I was charging her to take care of the kids. I just do it because I like them.
Mm-hmm, I see.
Well, anyway, she found out about it, and I had to split the check with her. The whole thing was for $400.
I understand your sister got the check cashed that night. That correct?
Yeah, that's right. It was 8 o'clock at night, but Rose said she knew somebody who'd cash it. She wanted the money that night. To save an argument, we got in the car and went to see this friend of hers, some bartender. He couldn't cash the thing, so Rose took the car and went out to look up another friend she thought would cash it. I didn't want to go chasing all over town with her, so I stayed at this bar and had a beer.
Mm-hmm. And that's the last time you saw your sister, is it?
Yes, I waited a couple of hours, and then I walked home. And 2 blocks from the house, I saw my car pulled up to the curb, right on Exposition Boulevard. Car keys were in the glove compartment. $200 in cash right under them. No sign of Rose, though.
Well, what time was it when you got back to the house, you remember?
It was after 11. Close to 11:30, I think. I went right to bed.
And since that time, you've had no indication where your sister might have gone? No phone calls, no letters, no word from one of her friends who might have seen her?
No, not a thing. She's in trouble. You can understand why. It's been coming for a long time. Last 5 years, going downhill all the time. She's no good, Sergeant. I don't know how it happened. She's just no good at all.
Thank you very much, Miss Barron.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, not at all. No trouble. I guess I better get dinner started for the kids.
Well, if you hear anything about your sister, we'd appreciate it if you'd give us a call.
Yes, all right. It's going to be the same old story. Same thing all over again. You can bet on it.
Ma'am?
She'll come back when the money's gone.
5:15 p.m. Ed and I drove back downtown and went directly to the crime lab. The missing woman's purse, which had been found in the vacant lot out in Hollywood, had been examined thoroughly. They'd found nothing that had provided us with a new lead. We checked communications, but there was still no answer to the APB we'd gotten out on Fred Lyons, the man who'd worked with Rose Baker and who dropped from sight the same day she did. 5:30 p.m. We got back to the squad room.
Hi, Brian. You just get back?
Yeah. You get the word?
No, what's that?
Mrs. Baker, they just found her body.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
Comparison proves Fatima quality. Prove Fatima quality yourself today.
Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Friends, to show our confidence in Fatima, we make this money-back guarantee. Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy Fatima quality, extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos. If you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas by August 1st, 1952, for your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Remember, because of its quality, its extra mildness, its better flavor and aroma, more smokers now insist on Fatima than ever before.
Insist on the best. Fatima, extra mild and soothing, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Smoke Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
June 3rd, Monday, 6 p.m. The body of 38-year-old Rose Baker had been discovered in the Hollywood Hills area. Approximately 3/4 of a mile from the intersection of Mulholland Drive and Oak Knoll Terrace, a dirt road branched off to the left of Mulholland and wound about 300 yards down the hill to a dead-end stop. Just below the guardrail, which circled the edge of the road, there were 2 eucalyptus trees. They overlooked a deep ravine covered with scrub oak and patches of laurel. Halfway down one slope of the ravine, they found the body of the missing woman. There were 2 bullet holes in the left side of the skull. There was another one at the base of the throat. In her clenched right hand, there was a 50-cent piece. The immediate area surrounding the body had been roped off, and Lieutenant Lee Jones and the crime lab crew were making their preliminary investigation. There was no sign of the murder weapon. The coroner arrived, and when the preliminary investigation was completed, the body was taken downtown to the county morgue. All clothing and personal effects were removed from the body and sent to the crime lab for detailed examination. Rose Baker's sister, Bernice Marin, was brought to the county morgue and identified the body. A few minutes after 10 o'clock that night, Ed and I got back to the office. I got it. Homicide, Friday.
Is it Sergeant Friday?
Yes, sir, that's right.
This is Carl Shelton, Sergeant. You were out to talk to me this morning, you remember?
Oh, yeah, Shelton.
I heard about Rosie just a couple of minutes ago. I got to talk to you, Sergeant. There's something I got to tell you.
Was that so? Do you want to tell me now?
Well, I don't want to tell you on the phone. I'll drive in to see you. I'll leave right now.
Well, yeah, all right. Do you mind telling me what it's about?
Yeah, I know who killed Rosie.
11:08 p.m. Carl Shelton arrived at the office. Ed and I took him down the hall to the interrogation room where he gave us his story. He told us, first of all, that he was well acquainted with most of the regular customers at the tavern where Rose Baker and her sister had first stopped to cash the $400 check. He told us one of these people, a Leroy Hansen, had contacted him after he read in the morning paper about Mrs. Baker's murder.
I've known Leroy at least 4 or 5 years. He used to work with him. He wouldn't lie to me.
And what did this fellow tell you, Shelton? That's Leroy Hansen.
He said he got to the bar a little after midnight. It had to be at least that, because Leroy doesn't get off work till 11:30. He said he saw Rosie sitting in a car parked a couple doors down from the bar. There was a woman in the car with her. He described her just like Rosie's sister. They were having a beef.
Did this friend of yours hear what Mrs. Baker and this woman were talking about?
No, but he's smart enough to know a big argument when he sees one. He says they were really going to it.
Is he sure about the time?
He's got to be. Leroy works at a sheet metal plant south of town. He gets off at 11:30. Takes him more than a half hour to get in. Why should he lie about it? He wasn't even going to mention it till he found out she was dead.
This woman he says Miss Baker was with, she fits her sister's description that close?
Exactly. And there was a guy with Leroy. He'll back it up. If the sister says she wasn't sitting in that car with Rosie outside that bar after midnight, she's a liar.
Well, she is if you can prove your story.
Here's the phone. You ask Leroy.
11:22 p.m. We put in calls to both of the men who were supposed to have seen Rose Baker and her sister Bernice sitting in a parked car outside the tavern 6 nights before. Both of them corroborated Carl Shelton's story down to the last detail. They were especially certain about the time. Bernice Marin told us that on the night her sister Rose disappeared, she hadn't seen her after 9:15 p.m., and that she had walked home and was in bed by 11:30. Both Leroy Hansen and his friend told us that they had seen Rose Baker and a woman answering her sister's description sitting together in a car parked outside the tavern. They were both certain at the time that it was well past midnight. We made a check on Leroy Hansen and his friend. As far as we were able to find out, there was no logical reason why they should lie about what they'd told us. Ed and I got in the car and drove out to the home of Bernice Marin, just off Exposition Boulevard. It was 20 minutes past midnight. We rang the front doorbell and got her out of bed.
Oh, hello, officers. Didn't know who it was. Come in.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, you have to wait long before I answered. I sleep pretty sound.
Fred will have to ask you to get dressed, Miss Marin. I'd like to talk to you downtown.
Why? What's the matter?
Well, some more questions we have to ask you, ma'am. A few more things we have to clear up about your sister. It's pretty important.
Well, I've told you everything I know. I don't like to go out and leave the kids alone at night. What is it you want to ask me about?
Well, you told us the last time you saw your sister was about 9:15 last Tuesday night, Miss Marin.
Yes, that's right.
We've got a couple of people who claim they saw you with your sister after midnight Tuesday. You were sitting with her in your car parked outside a tavern. You're having an argument with her. At least 2 people saw you, and they'll swear to that.
No, that couldn't be right.
They claim it is?
They say it was after midnight and they saw me with Rose?
Yes, ma'am, that's what they say.
And you believe it? You believe it was me?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
You think I killed Rose, is that it?
Yes, ma'am, we think so. How about it, Miss Marin?
It'll take me a minute to get my clothes on. I want to talk to the oldest boy, my nephew Frank. Would it be all right?
Well, I'll have to go along with you.
All right. This way, down the hall.
All right.
In here. I don't want to wake the other kids if I can help it.
All right.
Frank. Wake up, Frank. Frankie?
What do you want, Aunt Bernice?
I hate to wake you up, Frankie. I'm going to have to go downtown tonight. I'm leaving now. In case I'm not here when you and the kids get up, I want you to take care of everything, all right, honey?
Yeah, okay. What do you have to go downtown for?
Well, it's something about your mother, Frank. Might take a little time. You see the girls get off to school on time in the morning, won't you? Bobby, too. The sandwiches are all made. They're in the icebox. All you have to do is put them in a paper sack, all right?
Yeah, okay. Why do you have to go now? Can't you wait until tomorrow?
No, I'm afraid not, honey. You take care of everything, huh? Make sure all the doors are locked. And don't forget to feed the dog.
No, I won't forget. What's the matter? Is there anything wrong?
No, of course not. Now, if something happens so I can't get back tomorrow, I'll call you on the phone, all right?
Yeah, okay. You be sure and call, huh?
I'll call you, honey. Go to sleep now. It'll be all right. You get some sleep. Good night, Frankie.
Yeah, okay. Good night.
I'm sorry to keep you waiting. I had to tell Frank what to do. The kids wouldn't understand. I mean, if they woke up and didn't find me here.
Yes, ma'am. What'd you do with the murder gun, Miss Marin?
Out in the garage, I'll show you. I had her 4 kids to raise. It's not easy. You know what it costs to feed them, put clothes on their back? It's not the kids I minded. They're wonderful. I love every one of them. I'm glad to get the chance to raise them. Never married myself. Never had any of my own.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't been easy at all, working all day, coming home and cooking for them, doing the wash, trying to keep the house clean. Rose never gave me a dime to pay a bill, for her own kids, too. She gave us nothing, and she tried to take everything, tried to bleed me for my last dollar. She cashed the check that night and said she was going to keep all the money. I couldn't stand anymore. We argued, and I killed her.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, ma'am. We'll have to go.
Yes, all right. What'll I do, Sergeant? What'll I say?
I advise you to tell the truth. You'll get a fair trial.
I know that. It's not what I mean.
What do you mean?
Inside there, what am I going to say? How'll I explain it?
Ma'am?
The kids. How do you tell 4 kids you killed their mother?
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On October 3rd, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 92, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, I make it a habit to carry 2 packs of Fatimas around with me. One's for my smoking, and the second one's for smokers I see with other king-size cigarettes. All I have to say is, here, compare Fatima. I know they're going to be sold on Fatimas the next time we meet. How about comparing Fatima yourself? You'll find Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters, cools the smoke, all for your protection. You get those extra puffs because Fatima is 21% longer than standard cigarette size. And Fatima gives you an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Prove it today. Buy Fatima.
When their aunt, Bernice Alberta Marin, was apprehended on suspicion of 187 PC, the 4 Baker children were taken into protective custody by juvenile authorities. Bernice Marin was indicted for murder and entered a plea of self-defense. She claimed that at the time of the murder, her sister attacked her with a knife while they argued over the division of the $400 check. Bernice Marin was tried in Superior Court by a jury composed of 9 men and 3 women. She was found not guilty. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Barney Phillips, Virginia Gregg, Vic Perrin. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Next, it's Counter Spy on NBC.
This one's about Pete Kelly. It's about the world he goes around in. It's about the big music, and the big trouble, and the big 20. So when they ask you, tell them this one's about the blues. Pete Kelly's blues.
Pete Kelly's Blues, starring Jack Webb, with story by Joe Eisinger and music by Dick Kepner.
My name's Pete Kelly. I play cornet. You'll find us at 417 Cherry Street, Kansas City. It's a standard speakeasy. Before Prohibition, the building housed a cleaning and dyeing plant. It hasn't changed much. The vats came in handy. It's still tough to get a clear gin, but a lady likes the idea of a drink to match the color of her dress. The lease is owned by George Lupo. He's a fat, friendly little guy who wouldn't harm a fly. There's no money in harming flies. We start every night about 10 and play till the customers get that first frightening look at each other in the early light. Lupo's working on a scheme to push the dawn back for at least one more hour. I don't think he'll make it, but I wouldn't want to risk a buck against him. The last night, everything was routine until I saw her again. We were just winding up the third set when she came in, flanked with the same deadpan gunsel. She sat alone at the same table, ordered the same drink, smoked the same Egyptian deities, and gave me that same loving look. The gunsel, as usual, nibbled at his drink at the bar, and his eyes playing watchdog for the girl. This was the fifth night, 4 nights running, same girl, same gunsel, same routine. Sit for 5 solid hours, drink, smoke, and work me over with her eyes, reach down deep for a sigh, and leave with deadpan right behind her. Well, I didn't like it. I was beginning to taste salt on my tongue. We went into a finish, and the girl looked once at the gunsel, he nodded, left the bar, and started to the stand. All right. Nick, can you push it a little? It helps when we can hear the beat. All right, don't audition for me. Just do it, huh?
Pete.
Yeah, Red.
That babe's here again.
I know. All right, what do we got up next?
Working up a head of steam, Pete.
Well, she's beginning to make me feel like a wayside shrine.
You.
Who?
You.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, you got a request? A number you'd like
no,
to have?
I got no request, but the lady, she's got a request.
The lady?
What's the matter? You don't see the lady? How come you don't see the lady when she's looking right at you?
Oh, that lady. Yeah, sure, I see the lady.
So why do you make like you don't see the lady when all the time you know the lady's looking right at you?
Look, friend, I'm only a poor underpaid employee in this trap. Now, my contract says I'm to play music to please the patrons. I'd be very happy to do anything the lady likes to please the lady.
So, all right.
So what does she want me to do?
Well, she wants you to have a drink with her.
Sure, that'd be an honor. But I'm afraid that Mr. Lupo, he's my boss, you know. George Lupo, the proprietor, he doesn't like his employees to mingle
I
with
will talk to Lupo. He'll like it.
Yeah, you could probably make him love it.
Come on.
I'll be right back, Red. Use some nickels.
Right, Petey. Vita, this is Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly, this is Vita Brand.
Sit down, Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, thanks.
All right now, Vita? You happy?
I'm getting happier by the minute.
Sure, you want me to go back to the bar?
Sit here, it's more friendly. Hello, Pete.
Hello, Miss Brand.
Vita.
Vita?
You like my name?
Sure, it's beautiful.
Vita. I only just got it last week.
It'll take a little time to break it in, huh?
Let me hear you say it.
Vita.
Yeah. I like the way you say it. Like you mean it.
Yeah, I do. I never meant anything more in my life.
That's because you're sincere. I knew you were sincere the first time I looked at you. Remember the first night I came in? Sat here and looked at you.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty busy up there, you know.
Ain't slept a wink since that night.
Well, maybe if you go home and put your mind to it, huh?
No use, Pete. I tried. Nothing's any good. Nothing I can do is going to change it.
Change what?
The way I feel.
Sick?
Yeah.
With what?
With love.
Oh.
Poor Vita.
Yeah, well, beautiful girl like you. No trouble finding another man.
I don't want another man.
You don't want another man.
I want you.
That's what Vita wants, you.
I love you, Pete.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's the way it ought to be. Everybody love everybody else. It's a better world. Well, I got a number to do.
Now, you shut up. The lady is trying to tell you how much she loves you, so pay attention.
Yeah.
First time I saw you, Pete. Hit me like a dum-dum bullet.
Well, excuse me. I have to earn a buck.
Frame it. It's the last one you'll have to earn.
All right. Let's do one. What do you got up?
Till we meet again.
All right.
Petey.
Yeah, Red.
That babe, I got the rumble on her from Lupo.
Yeah?
Ever hear of a citizen named Bacalides? The 3-for boy? 3 killings for the price of 2?
All right, Red. Funnel it down, huh?
She belongs to Bacalides. Loser, Petey. Loser.
Yeah, you told me what. Now tell me how. Well, let's try one. Let's do it till we meet again. All right, we'll make a slow intro out of the last 8. We'll go back to the top. Nick, you take the first 4 going in. Everybody got it?
Guilty.
All right. Let's try it.
Come on, let's all play it, huh? All right, once more.
Nervous, Petey?
No, I'm not nervous. Now, come on, everybody, once more. All right. No break.
Pete, Gunsel's heading this way again.
Yeah, I know. What do we got up next?
Brew, sweet little you, and in addition, one
All
star.
right. Now, look, friend, I got a job to do.
From it. Let's go.
Where?
Now, you listen, Buster. This ain't a lollipop poking you in the gut. I can drop you and be out of here before you hit the floor.
Yeah, let's go. Well, we went outside. The Hispano out in front probably wasn't as long as it looked. We've got fairly short blocks in this part of town. Vita took the wheel. She banked low around the corner, pulled out of a half Immelman, gained a little altitude, and flew blind for downtown Kansas City. Vita glanced at me from the corners of charged eyes. Itch just glanced at me. I leaned my head back and closed my eyes. The Hispano whipped down Main Street, lost altitude as we gained the deserted financial district, made a perfect no-point landing at the side entrance of the Grundy Bank and Savings. Well, we went into the bank through the family entrance. One light was burning, and it hung low over the biggest dice table I ever saw in any bank. The stick man was busier than a flea on a fat lady. He called the plays and called the points, and not one of the 50 torpedoes glanced at us as we climbed a short flight to an upstairs office. Two men were in the room. One, a shadow dressed in dark clothes, looked through a small window onto the dice game down below. The Tommy gun rested easy across his knees. The other man sat behind a desk no bigger than the loading platform at Union Station. He was counting money. Neat, orderly piles of bills were stacked around him like a well-trimmed hedge. We waited while he finished thumbing a book of 50s. He just held them up to his ear, fanned them once, made a note on a pad by his elbow. Finally, he turned his swivel chair to face us. He was all chin and jaw. He leaned back, made a church steeple with his fingers, drew me a credit manager smile, and rocked his chair gently to and fro.
Well, come in, Mr. Kelly. Sit down. You're among friends.
Yeah, thanks.
Pete, permit me to introduce you to this here gentleman here who's very fond of you.
Sure, everybody loves me tonight.
Oh, he doesn't love you. Only I love you. He's merely very fond of you.
I am Bacalides.
Yeah.
He's confused. Ain't he cute? Ain't he cute when he's confused?
What is your confusion?
How much time do you have?
I am at your disposal.
Well, look, it runs something like this, Mr. Bacalides. I play cornet, see? At 4:17, I mind my own business. I try not to poke a thumb in anybody's eye. Well, I noticed this young lady here sitting out front, and tonight she asked me to have a drink with her. Well, naturally, I'm flattered.
Yes,
but,
yes, I know all this, but what is your confusion?
Well, it seems that this young lady here has some kind of an idea that she sort of likes me and...
Loves you, Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, well, loves me, like you say. Well, I don't figure myself for no Rudolph Valentino, so I get an idea that it's a rib, and especially since I know how both of you...
Not both. One. Me, I love Vida very much.
Oh, darling, you're sweet.
Yeah, that's right, for a fact. And when Vida thinks it over, I'm sure she's
There's
gonna...
nothing more to think over, Mr. Kelly. Vida has stopped loving me, all right, I face it. It makes me very unhappy, but I face it. Now she loves you. She wants you. I know how unhappy this can make her. I do not like for Vida to be unhappy, so Vida and me, we talk it over. We decide you will marry Vida.
Thank you, darling. You're sweet.
There's nothing, Vida. You know how I will do anything to make you happy, anything.
All right, now how about doing something to make me a little happy, huh?
But I give you Vida.
Yeah, well, I pass.
You refuse?
Oh, Pete, you don't mean that.
You have made Vida cry. I do not like to see Vida cry. Tell her you do not mean that.
Goodbye, friend. I got a number to do at 417, and it ain't Here Comes the Bride.
Yeah. Pick him up.
On your feet.
You will ask Vida to be your wife.
What's the next best offer?
Itch, don't hurt him.
I won't. All right, Itch. I think Mr. Kelly wants to say something.
Yeah.
Kelly.
Huh?
Who am I?
Huh?
You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Whiskey. Put him in that chair.
Come on, boy.
Hold his head back. All right, he is fine now.
Yeah. All I need is a few kind words.
I will give them to you. Just repeat after me. Vida, I love you.
Vida, I love you.
Mean it.
Vida, I love you.
Oh, Pete.
Will you marry me?
Will you marry me?
Oh, darling, of course I will.
Congratulations. We drink to it. To the happy bride and groom. Long life.
Long life.
Long life.
Yeah.
Now, here's how. Tomorrow afternoon, you and Vida will marry in City Hall. Itch will be best man. Then you go on a nice long honeymoon, drive to Canada in my Hispano, which I give Vida for a wedding present.
Look, I got a job here in town, 417 Cherry.
Go back to that crib. Tell the boss you quit. Tear up your cornet.
I'm loaded, Pete.
Loaded.
All right. Here's a pound of 50s. Tomorrow morning, you buy some clean clothes, top to bottom, inside and out. You will meet Vida at City Hall, 2 o'clock. Here's the key to the Hispano. Take it. Now kiss Vida good night.
Yeah.
Good night, Angel. I'll be the happiest bride in the world.
Sure.
And you'll be the happiest bridegroom.
Yeah, or the saddest step. Well, I left the office inside the spin of a top. The Hispano stood by the curb, sleek and calm, just like nothing had happened. Nothing at all. Well, I pointed for the 12th Street Bridge, made the other side of the river, and set a course down Boulder Road for Fat Annie's place. Oh, I tried to imagine life with Vida Brand. And then I thought of 6 painless ways of committing suicide. And I began to feel better. Fat Annie's place was doing a fair business for the lull hours. Maggie Jackson was standing back by the piano. I groped my way to the bar, ordered a bromo and ammonia, and listened.
All right, for the wealthy gentleman from Detroit. He needs me. All right, Ray.
He needs me. He doesn't know it, but he needs me. And so no matter where he goes, though he doesn't care, he knows I'm there. He needs me. I gotta follow where he leads me, or else he'll never know that I need him. Love as he needs me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulate me, Maggie.
Congratulations. What for?
Let's get back here. I want you to be the first to know. In here.
Pete, who worked you over?
You ever hear of a nail named Vida Brand?
Vida? Why, she don't weigh hardly enough to beat the white of an egg.
What do you know about her, Maggie?
Nothing much for sure. Only she's Bacalides' package, and that makes her a package nobody tampers with. Nobody.
Yeah, nobody but me.
Not if you love life, you don't.
I gotta.
Who says?
Bacalides says.
Petey, you all right?
Till tomorrow at 2 o'clock, yeah.
What's then?
Then's the wedding.
Who?
Mine and Vida Brand.
Petey, you've gone simple for sure. You know what Bacalides will do to you?
Look, Maggie, I just left Bacalides and Vita.
Catch you with her?
Look, that way I'm healthy. If he catches me without her, I'm dead in my socks.
Petey, you're taking those risks too fast. Slow it down a little. Bacalides, he's just crazy about that woman. Remember Albino Artie? He once looked at Vita like Bacalides didn't buy. That was 6 or 7 weeks ago. You seen Albino Artie for the past 6 or 7 weeks? No, nobody has.
Well, hear this. Bacalides orders me to marry Vita at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Now square it for me. Why?
And Vita, what does she say about this?
Only that she loves me.
She tell that to Bacalides?
Right to his platinum teeth.
I'm getting that feeling, Petey, like my grandmother used to get.
And what's it tell you?
That Vita's preparing herself to be a bride and a widow both in the same day.
Yeah. Well, I better move.
You do that, Pete. Fast and far.
So long, Maggie. I will.
And if I were you, I wouldn't stop moving till I heard him speaking foreign languages.
Well, marry Vita and I'm a dead bridegroom. Don't marry Vita, I'm a dead bachelor. Well, I decided to try to be a live fugitive. I raced the Hispano back across the river, pulled up sharp in front of 417 Cherry. The brakes never made a sound. Lupo was pounding the cash register with both fists. He threw the usual glare at me as I pushed through to the bandstand. Hold it down, huh? Hold it down. Let's do this one real fine, for me. It's my last time around.
Pete?
Yeah, Red.
You being pushed out?
Yeah, it's that or carried out. All right. Let's do Singing the Blues, huh? Everybody ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. All right, that'll do. Now, look, boys. I'm not going to be around for a while. A little business I got to take care of. Well, you'll hear from me, so just keep at it right here until... Red?
Yeah, Pete?
In the alley, huh? Look, Red, I'm in a jam.
What can I do to help, Pete?
Thanks, but nothing. I got to keep moving. Maybe cool off in a couple of weeks, maybe not. Meantime, try to keep the boys together, huh?
Sure.
Well. So long, Red. Take care of yourself, huh?
Pete, need a couple of bucks, Erskine? Anything?
No, I'm fine. I'll see you. It wasn't easy. I was going to miss the boys. I missed Red already. No, it wasn't easy. But there was only one exit. I drove around to the rooming house, raced up the stairs. All I had to take was a clean shirt, my other suit, and my book of arrangements. I'd hightail it east, just keep rolling till I ran out of road. That was the plan, until I got to my room. She was stretched across my bed, and she looked right at me as I came in. And there she was, on my bed, looking right at me, but I was all alone. Now Vida would never be anybody's widow. She was too dead to say I do. The stocking from her left leg was where no girl's stocking ought to be, knotted tightly around her throat. Well, I tiptoed back to the door, as though she was a light sleeper. I closed the door very gently behind me, and then I raced down the 3 flights into the street, into the Hispano, and into high speed. There was no lambing out of this one. You just don't hit the road in a car belonging to the stiff you leave behind. For such violations, the law is strict. Also, Bacalides. Well, I pulled up hard in front of Sour Sammy's joint. This time, the brakes cried. Barney Ricketts was sitting at his usual table in his usual state, boiled and loud. Barney's the only ex-bootlegger in the country who went broke in 1922. He says he did that to aggravate a couple of prohibition agents he hated. Well, Barney saw me come in and waved me over to his table.
Ah, Pete Kelly. Welcome, Petey, and have a drink.
Look, Barney, I'm up to my eyes.
Nonsense, Petey. You haven't even opened them yet. Ah, here we are. A drink for you and a drink for me.
Now, listen, Barney, I'm in trouble.
Petey, I have suddenly become oppressed by the state of the world. Well, it's my own fault, Petey, my own fault. I make it a rule never to look at the public prints. But tonight, well, just listen to these few choice items.
Now, look, Barney, right now I'm a moving target for Bacalides' gun.
Last night's edition of the Star. Look here, Petey, September 8, 1923. Girl forced to leap from stranger's automobile. But let us remember, Petey, that the only girls who leap from strangers' automobiles are those who climb into them. And here, look here.
All right, Barney.
California politicians say they are responsible for President Calvin Coolidge's success. Probably insist, Petey, that it's in honor of their state that he's called Cal. And this, Petey...
Barney, look, there's a dead girl in my room.
German Marx quoted at 28 cents per million. So you see, Petey, even a German millionaire is pushed hard to feel like 30 cents.
Now, look, Vida Brand, Bacalides' girl, she's dead, Barney, in my room.
Well, now, that's most careless of you, Petey.
If I run, it's the law, Barney. If I stand still, it's Bacalides.
How did you get mixed up with Vida Brand and Bacalides?
I don't know. I'm still in last week's fog. She wanted to marry me. Bacalides said I would or else. Why, Barney? Why if he torched for her?
Very simple problem in human relationships, Petey. Tonight, the word got out that Muggsy Brand was sprung.
Who's Muggsy Brand?
Vida's father. He was sent up last year. Vida's his whole life. He tried to guard her like Lupo guards his cash register. He hates Bacalides, and if he learned that he and Vida...
Yeah, now it's coming into focus.
Sometimes, Petey, you're dull-witted. Dull-witted, but stupid.
So Bacalides and Vida rigged it to disarm her old man. She marries me, takes the heat off Bacalides.
Splendid, Petey, splendid.
And her old man winds up throwing the knife at me. All I got to do now is explain Vida's body in my room to Muggsy Brand.
Precisely what Bacalides expects you to face.
All right. Glue the rest of it together for me, will you?
Bacalides is married. He could never square himself with Vida. He got in deeper than he wanted to. He couldn't dump her because of Muggsy coming out. So he ties her onto you, gets her up to your room, leaves her dead on your bed.
How do I back out of this one, Barney?
Do you know where to reach Bacalides?
Yeah, at the Grundy Bank.
His dice game?
Yeah, that's right.
All right, go there. See Bacalides, lay it on the line for him. All the way, just like we talked in here.
Well, he'll cut me down.
He might.
How much edge do I have?
Not quite enough to shave with.
But maybe just enough to cut my throat, huh?
It's your only chance, Pete. You're in the middle of a 3-way push. The law, Bacalides, Muggsy Brand.
All right, Barney. I'm counting on you on the outside.
Don't worry, Petey. I'll be there with bells on.
Yeah, make sure they don't toll for me. Well, I went back to the Grundy Bank and Savings. I had no trouble getting in. The game was just heating up. I stalled around the dark edges of the table for a minute and laid a few bucks on the field. Upstairs, the light was on in the office. The boy with the big piece was still sitting at the window. I could see the head and shoulders of Bacalides. He was still counting money. I started slowly up the stairs, went into the room without knocking. The muscle man swung sharp, pointing the heater at my stomach. Bacalides, fast for a big man, flung out a hand and knocked the gun out of line.
Hold it. Next time knock, or you pick up a lot of weight.
Yeah, for a silk stocking around my neck?
No, for you a knife. From the fingers of the best shiv man in the country.
Muggsy Brand?
Don't try to run, Kelly. He likes a moving target. Just go to him. Tell him his daughter is in your bed, a stocking around her throat. Tell him you don't understand any of it. He will be very sympathetic.
Oh, that's nice, Mr. Bacalides. You set it up real nice.
Smart, huh?
Sure. You persuade Vida to buzz it around that I'm number one. Everything fixed for her father's ears. Even get her to help you push her across by going up to my room.
You tell a good story, friend. Maybe too good.
Oh, put that rod down, Bacalides, before you drop it and break your toe.
Maxie, take him downstairs. Come back alone.
Petey, look out. Get down.
Muggsy.
Barney, you all right?
Shell shock.
Muggsy Brand?
Yes, Pete. I knew where he was. All he heard was Bacalides.
Kelly.
Yeah, Muggsy.
Bacalides. I got him?
He was between the guns. Not much left of him. Or his trigger man.
Or me. Now listen. You might poke. Money. Take it. You might get a good burial.
Easy, Muggsy, huh?
She was only a kid. Maybe if she met a guy like...
He's gone, Pete.
Yeah. What do you mean, Pete? A guy like who?
Who knows, Barney? Who knows?
Pete Kelly's Blues, starring Jack Webb, with story by Joe Eisinger and music by Dick Cathcart. Scoring by Matty Matlock. The music of Pete Kelly's Big Seven and Maggie Jackson is now available on phonograph records.
The proceeding was transcribed. It's the Silver Jubilee on NBC. There's another thrilling adventure in store for you tonight with Les Damon as the hard-hitting adventurer known as the Falcon. Later, hear the best in music, the tunes which America is singing. Yes, we bring you a sparkling new program devoted to the best in popular music and presided over by well-known musical director Meredith Wilson. Tonight, make a listening reminder to hear Meredith Wilson's Music Room. Les Damon as the Falcon, tonight on NBC.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to homicide detail. A man is shot down in the street of a residential neighborhood. He's critically wounded. You don't know who the assailant is. You don't know where he is. Your job, get him.
Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
Prove Fatima quality yourself.
You'll find Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
You'll find Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke. Plus, the added protection of Fatima quality.
Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you're now smoking.
Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Thursday, January 20th. It was mild in Los Angeles. We were working the night watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Ed Jacobs. The boss is Thad Brown, chief of detectives. My name's Friday. I was on the way back from dinner, and it was 9:57 p.m. when I got back to the City Hall, room 42, homicide detail.
Hi, make it in time?
No, they were closed up.
Oh, that's too bad. Where'd you eat?
Well, that cafeteria down the street was terrible.
Nothing at all, huh?
Well, I figured I'd be safe with a corned beef hash. Even that wasn't much. Soggy, you know. Probably standing all day.
That's too bad. I asked Johnny if he'd stay open a couple of minutes late. Told him you were coming right over.
The place was closed tight when I got there. Couldn't raise any money.
Tough luck. Short ribs are really good tonight. Some great pie, too. Boysenberry. Best I had anyway.
Say, you got any of those bicarb pills in your locker? I could sure use one.
I'm afraid not. Gave the last one to Gene Bechtel tonight. He ate at the cafeteria, too. Hiya.
Oh, hi, what do you say?
Any phone calls for me yet? Muriel down at the staff's office called. That run you asked for, they got it ready.
It was the only call, huh?
Yeah.
What is it, Al? Something wrong?
No, why?
You've been moping around like you lost your best friend. What's the matter? You mad at the world?
No, just my in-laws. The wife had her father and mother over for lunch today. The old man's getting to be a real pain in the neck.
Don't get along with him, huh?
I keep trying to. Doesn't seem to do much good. All he can think of is money. It's all he can talk about.
Why let it bother you?
My in-laws have been talking about it for years. Forget it.
He won't let you. The minute he puts his foot inside the front door, it's the first thing you hear. Crusty old guy. That pipe he smokes enough to knock you over.
Why don't you duck out when they come over? Tell them you got a call. You have to go to work.
Well, the wife's onto that one. She makes me hang around. Keeps telling me her father and mother like me. You never know it. The old guy's a real tyrant. See, the wife comes from a big family. Every time I see her old man, he has to make a point of telling me how smart his other sons-in-law are. How much dough they're making. Yeah, same routine every time. One of his daughters married a carpenter. He's making $20 a day. One of them married a hod carrier. He's making $25 a day. Always ends up asking me how much I'm making.
Why don't you tell him it's none of his business?
I did today. That's what started the argument. I walked out. Crusty old guy.
Yeah, so I get it. Homicide, Friday. Yes, sir. Where? Would you repeat? Yes, sir, I have it. Fine, thank you. Yes, sir, right away. Shooting, Kirkman near Alpine.
Let me grab my coat.
No details?
Man down on the sidewalk, apparently hurt bad. Neighbor said it was a family fight. Come on, we better hustle it out.
Let's go. That's one good thing about this job.
What do you mean?
Trouble. You don't know what it is till you hear about other people's.
Sergeant Al Shambra, Ed and I drove out to the scene of the shooting, code 3, red light and siren. We located the victim lying on the sidewalk approximately 50 feet from the intersection of Kirkman Avenue and Alpine Street. He was a dark-haired man, looked to be in his early 40s, tan complexion, well-built. He'd been shot several times in the chest, once in the shoulder. He appeared to be unconscious. A handful of curious neighbors were standing by. One of them, a short, balding man, identified himself as Ernest Whitley. He said he was the victim's next-door neighbor.
What's the man's name, Mr. Whitley?
Wally Radford lives right next door to me. Been my neighbor for years.
Where do you live?
This apartment court right here. I live in the cottage next to the end one there, number 8. Wally lives in number 9. One right on the end there, facing us. See?
Yeah, what do you know about the shooting, Mr. Whitley?
Well, I didn't have anything to do with it. I was watching television with the wife. I heard the shots outside. You can ask the wife. She'll tell you.
You heard the shots outside of Radford's cottage, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Where's the ambulance? Why don't they come?
They've been notified. They're on the way.
Well, who did the shooting, Whitley? Would you know that?
Well, not for sure. We were watching television, like I said, when I heard the shots. Wife and I. First I heard the shots, and then I heard somebody yell. I thought it was some high school kids in a hot rod or something. You know, horsing around outside. Wife told me to get up and take a look anyway, so I did. On the way to the door, I heard another shot. Then somebody yelled out again like they were hurt. Must have been 6 or 7 shots anyway. Just as I opened the door, I saw Wally go running past. I didn't know what was coming off. He ran right out toward the street here. Weaving back and forth, looked like he'd had a couple of drinks. I didn't know what it was.
You didn't see the actual shooting? You didn't see anyone with a gun?
Well, no. The only one I saw was Wally. He ran right by me, holding his hands up to his chest. I yelled to him, but he didn't stop. I didn't know if he was drunk or what. When he got out here to the sidewalk, I saw him fall down. I went after him. It was terrible. Say, either one of you got a smoke?
Yeah, sure.
Look, I'm still shaking like a leaf.
There you go.
Swell. Thank you.
On the light?
Yeah, please. Thanks.
You're welcome. Was Radford still conscious when you reached him, do you know?
Just about, yeah. I don't know how many times he was shot. He was rolling around on the ground. Pain was terrible. The whole front of his shirt was all stained. I yelled to Mike Desmond, one of the other neighbors. He called you fellas.
Did Radford say anything to you? How it happened?
I kept moaning about the pain. Kind of made me sick. It was a relief when he passed out.
Did he tell you how it happened?
Yeah, his wife. I figured that was it when I saw what was wrong with him.
He told you his wife shot him?
Well, they had a big fight today, Wally and his wife. Started this afternoon, been going on all day, all night, yelling at each other, throwing things around. I never expected this, though. Something must have snapped. She must be out of her mind.
Where's his wife now?
I don't know. Still back in their cottage, I guess. I've been here since the shooting. I didn't see her leave.
Joe?
Yeah.
We got our hands full.
Now, what do you got?
Just talking to one of the neighbor women back in the court here. She said a Mrs. Radford phoned her about 5 minutes ago. Identified herself as the victim's wife, cottage number 9.
What did Miss Radford want with the neighbor?
She said she was giving fair warning. She wanted her to pass the word along.
What do you mean?
Claims she's going to kill anybody that comes after her.
10:28 p.m. The ambulance arrived, and the attendants administered first aid to the victim of the shooting, Wallace Radford. Before he was rushed to Georgia Street Receiving Hospital for further treatment, Radford regained consciousness long enough to confirm the fact that it was his wife who shot him. That was about all he could tell us before the sedatives took effect. The 2 officers and 2 of the radio cars which were standing by were detailed to keep the crowd away from the apartment court where the shooting took place, in particular Cottage 9, where the Radfords lived.
The blinds were drawn in the house. There were no lights showing. We called the Radford cottage on the phone, but there was no answer. Al Shambra and Ed circled around and back for a closer look at the place. I continued interviewing the Radford's next-door neighbor, Ernest Whitley.
I guess I should have known it'd come to this someday, the way they've been fighting lately, Wally and his wife. They've been doing nothing but wrangling, day in, day out.
Well, you any idea where Mrs. Radford got the gun?
She must have used Wally's, I guess. Don't know where else she'd get her hands on one.
He keeps a gun in the house, does he?
Yeah, as long as I've known him, he has. 38 automatic. I don't know the make, though.
Do you happen to know if Mrs. Radford was used to handling a gun?
No, a typical woman. I remember Wally and Stella were over for cards one night. Stella, that's Mrs. Radford.
Yeah.
I don't know how it came up, but Wally and Stella started arguing about him keeping a gun in the house. Stella didn't like it a bit, said she was afraid of guns. Didn't even like to have him around. I'm surprised she even knew how to pull a trigger.
You said the Radfords had a big fight today. What was it about? Do you happen to know?
Same old thing, I guess. Stella was always accusing Wally of running around with other women, running around town drinking. As far as I know, it wasn't true. Matter of fact, it was just the opposite. If anybody was on the town, it was Stella. I happen to know at least one guy she was making eyes at. Oh, here's your friend.
Hi, what's it look like?
Not good. House is pitch dark. Can't hear anyone moving around inside.
Won't be easy to get her out of there, Joe, the way the cottage is situated.
Why, what's the problem?
Well, the rear of the house backs up against that hill there.
Yeah.
Just a small space between the end of the house and the hill. No back door, just windows. One of them's open a few inches.
You mean the front door's the only way in the place, huh?
No, there's a side door on the left of the house there, left-hand side.
That's a kitchen door, Sergeant. Leads right into the kitchen. Just like our place. All the cottages are laid out the same.
The living room's just inside the front door, then, huh?
Yeah, that's right. Bedrooms in the right rear, kitchen in the left rear. A small bathroom leading off the bedroom leads to the left.
She won't come out peaceably. How about a tear gas shell? That ought to bring her out.
Well, I don't know if we'll need it, Al. Might be a waste of time. Whitley here was just telling me Mrs. Radford isn't familiar with guns. You think she know how to reload the automatic, Whitley?
No, sir. I'm pretty sure she wouldn't. I don't even know if Wally had another clip of shells around the house. Even if he did, Stella wouldn't know what to do with it.
Well, how about the clip that's already in the gun? Good chance she's got a couple of shells left.
She fired more than half a dozen of them, I know that. She must have gone crazy. There were at least 7 or 8 shots.
Well, they're just about empty, the gun. How about it? You want to try rushing the place?
Let's go.
Okay with me.
All right, you better stay out here for the time being, Mr. Whitley. Might be some shooting. You know you taking any chances.
Yes, sir. Sure. Okay, Sergeant. I'll be right back here if you want me.
Thank you very much. All right, let's try it.
How you want to handle it?
Why don't you and Al take the side door? I'll go in the front.
You want to see if we can get a rise out of her first?
Yeah. Might be she'll give it up without a fight. I'll call out to her a couple of times first. If there's no answer, we'll rush the place.
Okay.
Now, let's make it all together. Now, just wait for a signal. I'll call it out.
All right.
Okay.
That's it. Side door just behind the shrub over there. Give us a little time to get around her, huh?
Yeah, now, when I call out the rush, make it fast. It's the only thing we got in our favor. We'll try and surprise you.
Right. See you later. Be careful.
Miss Radford? Miss Radford, can you hear me? Police officers, we've got your place surrounded. We want you to come out. Can you hear me, Miss Radford? We want you to come out. Miss Radford? All right, let's go. Hit the doors.
Joe, you all right?
Yeah, what about you?
In the kitchen. It's empty.
Okay, just a minute. Living room's empty, not in here.
Ed in the bedroom. Nothing here. Yeah, how about that? Hey, Joe, back here.
Where are you?
Bedroom, straight back.
All right.
Have a look.
Did you check the bathroom and all the closets?
Everything. She's gone.
10:46 p.m. We double-checked the cottage, all the buildings, and possible hiding places adjoining the Radford house, and then we combed through the immediate neighborhood around the apartment court. There was no trace of the suspect, Stella Radford. In the apartment, we found a picture which neighbors told us was a good likeness of Mrs. Radford. Al Shambra got to a phone, called the office, and a local broadcast and an APB was gotten out on her. We figured she probably slipped out of the house without being noticed during the general excitement immediately after the shooting. Her phone call to one of the neighbors warning that she'd kill anyone who came after her only served as a stall to give her more time for a getaway. 10:55 p.m. Ray Pinker and the crime lab crew arrived and began their preliminary investigation. Judging from the bloodstains found on the furniture and the rug in the living room and on the front steps of the cottage, Radford had first been shot while he was in the living room, and then apparently he ran out the front door to escape the gunfire. A trail of 7 empty shells ejected from a .38 caliber automatic seemed to indicate that his wife followed him out the front door, still firing at him as he tried to get away. We checked the apartment court garage, but the Radford's car was still there. We remained at the apartment court interviewing the neighbors and trying to get a line on some of Mrs. Radford's known friends and associates.
Joe, how'd you make out?
Not much, Al. Neighbor I talked to hardly even knew the Radfords. How about you?
Not much better. The only apartment up the way name's Joanne Taylor. She told me she knew Radford's wife fairly well. Says she has a sister in town. Doesn't have any idea where she lives, though.
How about the boyfriends Mrs. Radford's supposed to be running around with? She know anything about that?
She thinks she was doing a little running around. She doesn't know who the men are, though. Hear anything about Radford's condition?
Yeah, I checked with Georgia Street a couple of minutes ago. It's pretty critical. I don't know if he's going to make it or not.
Joe, Al, back here hustling.
Come on. What do you got?
Radford's neighbor next door, Whitley's. Just got a call from Mrs. Radford. She's talking to Mr. Whitley on the phone right now.
Let's go.
I know what this is all about. Oh, yeah, Sergeant. I was just going to run and get you.
You have Mrs. Radford on the phone?
I did, yeah. She hung up just before you came in. Wouldn't talk, though.
Did she tell you where she is?
No, she sure sounded funny. I think something snapped. She's a little crazy.
Well, what'd she say? Why'd she call you?
Said she wanted to find out if her no-good husband was dead yet. That's all I could make out. The rest was just a lot of gibberish.
She wouldn't give you any idea where she was? Where she was phoning from?
No, I asked her, but she just laughed at me. Might still have a chance to find out, though.
Yeah, how's that?
She's going to call me back.
While Ed and I waited with Mr. Whitley in his apartment, Al Shambra got to another phone in one of the adjoining apartments, called our business office, and gave them the number of the Whitleys' telephone. He asked them to make arrangements as soon as possible to have all incoming calls at the Whitleys traced to their origin. Meantime, Ed and I were briefing Ernest Whitley as to what he should say if and when the suspect, Stella Radford, called him back. There was no phone extension in his apartment, so the only way we'd be able to monitor the conversation would be for Whitley to share the receiver with one of us. We waited. 11:30 p.m., 11:45, midnight, 12:15 a.m.
Sergeant?
All right, try and keep the receiver tilted so we can listen.
Yeah, sure. Hope I got it straight.
Okay.
Hello?
Ernie, this is Stella. Did you find out what I told you to?
Yeah, I called the hospital. Wally's a lot better. It's not as bad as they thought it was.
What do you mean it's not bad? You trying to kid me?
No, it's the truth, Stella. It's not half bad at all. Wally's going to be all right.
Couldn't be. I shot him 4 or 5 times. How could he be all right?
Look, I didn't say he was all right. I said he was going to be all right. Look, it's nothing serious. Not half as bad as they thought.
You're lying. You know you're lying, Ernie.
Look, come on, snap out of it, will you, Stella? It's going to be all right. Wally forgives you. Believe me, he does. Now, look, why don't you come home? We'll get the whole thing straightened out. There won't be any trouble.
Why don't you stop trying to kid me? It's not going to be all right. I've seen the last of you and the last of Wally.
Stella.
I'm with my boyfriend now. We're getting out of town.
Now, wait a minute, Stella. Use your head, huh? Don't go rushing in anything.
You don't have to tell me. I know what I'm doing. I don't care if that dumb husband of mine lives or dies. But just tell him he'd better not try to follow us.
Oh, Stella.
My boyfriend's an ex-con. He's got a gun and he knows how to use it.
Well, Stella, will you listen a minute?
You can tell that to the cops, too, in case they're going to follow us. They try and stop us, and they're going to have a fight in their
Look, you keep talking. Will you listen for just a minute? Where are you now? Let me come down and talk to you.
Not a chance. Just be a waste of time. I'm leaving with my boyfriend in half an hour. You can tell Wally I hope he dies.
Wait a minute, Stella. He gave me a message for you, honey. He left something with me. He wants you to have it.
What?
His wallet. He gave it to me just before he left for the hospital. Got $94 in it. Says he doesn't care what you think of him. He wants you to have the money.
$94?
Yeah.
He didn't have that much money with him. Where'd he get it?
Well, I don't know anything about that, but it's right here in his wallet, just the way he gave it to me. He wants you to have it. That's all I know.
I don't get it. He didn't have that much money.
Well, what do you want me to do? Take it back to him? Tell him you didn't want it? Look, give the guy a break, huh, Stell? It's the only way he's got to show you how he feels about you. Stell? Isn't that right? Well, how about it, Stell?
You got the money with you?
I told you, yeah. Pick it up anytime you want.
No. You bring it down here. I'll pay your cab fare, buy you a drink. You can meet my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Just a minute.
Stell? Hello, Stell?
Yeah? It's about 12:30 now. I'll be down here in half an hour, huh?
Uh-huh.
I'm in a bar right on the corner. You can't miss it.
Where? What corner?
9th and Avalon.
As soon as the suspect, Stella Radford, hung up, we went to the apartment cottage next door where Al Shambra was on the phone in constant communication with our business office. He told us that somehow there'd been a slip-up. They were unable to trace the call to its point of origin. 12:36 a.m. According to plan, Ernest Whitley left his apartment, called a taxi, and headed downtown to keep his appointment with the suspect, Stella Radford. Ed Jacobs and Lieutenant Tony Ruiz from Homicide followed him. Al Shambra and I stood by at the apartment. More waiting. 1 a.m., 1:30, 2 a.m.
Think they'd call us anyway. Wonder what the hitch is.
Well, it's kind of hard to figure out. It's either a bum steer or they ran into some kind of trouble, maybe.
And Mrs. Radford, she really warmed up to the idea when the money was mentioned.
Well, apparently, yeah. I was listening in when Whitley gave her the story. She seemed to go for it. It's kind of hard to tell. The way this whole thing shapes up, she can...
Might be them now. Give a look.
Joe?
Oh, yeah, Ed. What happened? How'd it go?
We covered the bar till closing, cruised the neighborhood, gave her plenty of time.
Yeah.
No luck. She didn't show.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
Fatima, America's first largest-selling blended cigarette. Now king-size. The only king-size cigarette that makes you this money-back guarantee.
Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy Fatima quality, extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos.
If you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas by August 1st, 1952, for your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Buy Fatima. Compare them with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Remember, more smokers now insist on Fatima quality than ever before. Buy Fatima. In Fatima, the difference is quality. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Friday, January 21st, 2:28 a.m. With the failure of the suspect, Stella Radford, to keep the date with her next-door neighbor, Ernest Whitley, at the Avalon Boulevard bar, we reached a temporary stalemate. Despite the fact that checks were made at all restaurants, bars, and other business places in the vicinity of 9th and Avalon open that time of night, there was no report or trace of the suspect. While the search continued, we stood by at the Whitley apartment in the hope that Mrs. Radford might call back. A check of our Records and Identification Bureau failed to turn up any record on either the victim or the suspect, his wife. Ed called Georgia Street Receiving Hospital again, but there was no change. Wallace Radford's condition was still critical. At 2:35 a.m., Stella Radford telephoned again. While we listened in, she told Whitley that she'd had no intention of keeping that appointment with him at the Avalon Boulevard bar. She told him that she knew he was working with the police, that she saw officers follow Whitley to the bar where they were supposed to have met. She again warned him of the consequences in the event anybody tried to apprehend her. After she hung up, we checked with the business office, and they told us that the calls had been coming from a telephone prefix which was impossible to trace. 10 minutes later, Whitley got another call from the Radford woman. The conversation went on for the better part of 20 minutes. She didn't seem to make much rhyme or reason. Her only concern was the condition of her husband, whether or not he was dead. She hung up abruptly, but 15 minutes later, she called Whitley again.
Look, Stella, I told you there isn't going to be any trouble. Now, why don't you go and see Wally? He's lying down there in the hospital. He wants to see you. How about it, huh, Stella?
Is he dead or not? That's all I want to know. My boyfriend and I are leaving first thing in the morning. I want to find out before I go.
Why don't you at least give me a chance to talk to you, Stella, huh? We've been good friends. You know I wouldn't do anything to hurt you, you or Wally. Now, let me talk to you, huh?
There's nothing to talk about. If you got anything to say, you can tell me now. All I want to do is find out about Wally.
I told you he's hurt, but he's going to be all right. It's not serious. Stella?
Why don't you stop lying to me?
But I'm not lying, Stella. I wouldn't lie about something like that. What's the matter with you anyway? You been drinking?
What's it your business? You're not kidding me, Ernie. You're trying to help the cops. Don't you think I know that? What kind of a fool you think I am?
But I'm trying to help, Stella, that's all.
Sure, you're trying to help. Not me, though. You're trying to help the cops. I know they're with you. When we made that date to meet at the bar, you told them all about it.
No.
You left the house and they left right after you. I know
Stella,
all about it.
no, you got it wrong, honey. I'm trying to help both of you, you and Wally. I'm trying to help the best way I know how. Now, why don't you come home? I told you we'll straighten the whole thing out. There won't be any trouble.
Don't hand me that. I said we're leaving town, me and my boyfriend. Now, what about that money? $94. She said Wally wanted me to have.
Yeah, that's right. He does. Now, how can I get it to you if you don't trust me?
Get away from the cops, that's all.
Oh, Stella.
Maybe I could use the money, but I'm not giving myself up.
Look, you're wrong about the cops, Stella. Believe me, you are. Now, why won't you let me meet you someplace? Any place you want, just let me talk to you.
How many times do I have to tell you there's nothing to talk about? All I want to know is about Wally. Is he dead yet?
But I told you, he's not dead. He's going to be all right. Look, why can't you believe me? It's not what they thought. Wally will be okay.
Dad, in the next room.
But what for, Stella? Why? Now, come on, snap out of it, huh? No, it's the truth, so help me.
Yeah, what's the matter?
Well, it just happened to strike me. You hear that streetcar that just went by a minute ago?
Yeah, I did. Why?
Did you notice a little before that when we were listening on the phone? Sounded like the same thing coming over the line, didn't it?
Yeah, come to think of it, it did. Matter of fact, I heard it a couple of times coming over the phone. It was pretty regular.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Streetcars have been passing by here regularly, too. Not much of a time lapse, either. Not much more than a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean between the time when we hear it over the phone and the time the streetcar actually passes this place.
Yeah.
Well, if we've got the right angle, there's only one way to figure here. She's phoning from somewhere in the neighborhood, and she's fairly close, wouldn't you say?
Where do we start looking?
Well, car tracks only run two ways. 3:30 a.m. Ed and I went back into the next room and continued to monitor the conversation between Whitley and Mrs. Radford. Whitley seemed to know how to keep the suspect talking, even though the purpose of her conversation seemed to make little or no sense. At 3:42 a.m., while we listened in, on the other end of the line, we again heard the sound of a streetcar approach and pass. Ed checked his watch. Approximately 1 minute, 38 seconds later, we heard a streetcar pass by in front of the apartment court. Before Ed and I left, we jotted down a note for Whitley asking him to keep Mrs. Radford on the line just as long as possible. We got in the car and drove north along the car tracks at about the normal speed of a streetcar. 1 minute and 38 seconds of driving brought us a distance of little more than 8 blocks. It was on the fringe of a park area. There were only 3 residential buildings in the immediate vicinity. There were no lights showing in any of them. We checked the location for public telephones, but we found none. 4:15 a.m., we turned around, drove back to the apartment court, and using the same timing procedure, 1 minute, 38 seconds at 25 miles an hour, we drove along the car line in a southerly direction.
Sure not much of a choice. Bars are closed, most of the restaurants. No lights running on this block.
A few up ahead there in the next block, Ed.
Yeah. Got to come pretty soon, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a minute right now. I can't see how we'd be wrong on it, can you?
Too much to write off is just a coincidence.
A minute, 15 seconds. A minute, 20. Better slow down, huh?
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, it's a service station across the street.
It's closed up.
Well, a lot of them have outside payphones, don't they? You see any?
No. None on this side. Let's see, I'll pull up in there, huh?
Yeah. There's a phone booth in the back there. There's no lights, though.
Looks like somebody in it. Looks like a woman. Yeah, it is.
Come on. All right, hold it up, lady.
She's running for it, Joe.
All right, come on. Hold it up, lady. Police officer.
Let go. Let go of me. What do you think you're doing?
Police officers, lady. Here's our identification. I'd like to talk to you.
You leave me alone. Just leave me alone. That's all. I don't have to talk to you.
Your name's Stella Radford, isn't it?
No, it isn't.
Is that your identification?
Who sent you here? Who was it?
Are you Stella Radford?
You couldn't have found out. How'd you know I was here? It was Ernie, wasn't it? Him and his friends. He told you.
No, ma'am.
I don't see how you found me. Somebody had to tell you. You never could have found me. I don't see how I made any mistake.
Yeah, that's right. Let's go, lady.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On April 16th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 88, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
And now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, as you know, Fatima Cigarettes makes it possible for us to bring you this Dragnet series. And each week, of course, we set aside a couple of minutes to tell you about Fatima's. We've already told you why we believe Fatima is the best of all king-size cigarettes. The rest is up to you. I suggest you buy a pack of Fatimas and compare them yourself. Fatimas give you an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality, something no other cigarette has. Look for that bright, sunny yellow pack tomorrow and try Fatima.
The victim of the shooting, Wallace John Radford, recovered from his wounds and refused to press charges against his wife. However, she was tried in Superior Court and found guilty of Section 245 PC, assault with a deadly weapon. She was sentenced to the term prescribed by law. Assault with a deadly weapon is punishable by imprisonment in the state penitentiary for a term not less than 1 nor more than 10 years.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Joseph M. Kinnick, President of the California State Juvenile Officers Association.
Thank you. The California State Juvenile Officers Association has asked me to present this award of merit to Jack Webb and to Dragnet for outstanding service to law enforcement in the authentic and sympathetic portrayal of the police officer in the field of delinquency control.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kinnick. And I'll be looking forward to meeting you again and the members of your association at your annual conference banquet tomorrow night here in Los Angeles.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Barney Phillips, Herb Ellis, Jack Crucian, Helen Cleve. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes. Best of all, king-size cigarettes has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles. Ladies and gentlemen, nature plus the threat of man-made catastrophes make continuing health and constant preparedness necessary. The Red Cross binds these needs. Answer the Red Cross call with a generous contribution.
Next, it's Mr. Keene, Tracer of Lost Persons on NBC.
The Adventures of Sam Spade, Detective, brought to you by Wild Root Cream Oil Hair Tonic, the non-alcoholic hair tonic that contains lanolin. Wild Root Cream Oil, again and again, the choice of men who put good grooming first.
Sam Spade Detective Agency.
Me, sweetheart.
Sam, how did it go?
It was the end, Effie, but the end.
Oh, Sam, not another one of those society things.
Depends on what you mean by society.
Well, you know, Sam, cafe society. Cocktails for two, hands across the table. Make it another old-fashioned, please.
Let's not lose our head, Effie. Nothing but double martinis, very dry, with 2 olives, sweetheart.
2 olives?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Sam, isn't that overdoing it?
It was all overdone, sweetheart. That's what cranked it. Now, stay right where you are. I'll be right down to mix up my report on the Dry Martini Caper. Get it?
Dashiell Hammett, America's leading detective fiction writer and creator of Sam Spade, the hard-boiled private eye, and William Spear, radio's outstanding producer-director of mystery and crime drama, join their talent to make your hair stand on end with the adventures of Sam Spade. Presented by the makers of Wild Root Cream Oil for the hair. August is always a great vacation month. And for those of you planning to take your vacation soon, let me suggest that when you're packing, be sure you include a bottle and a handy tube of Wild Root Cream Oil Hair Tonic. For no matter where you go, you can always depend on Wild Root Cream Oil to groom your hair neatly and naturally, relieve dryness, and remove loose dandruff. Yes, you can take it with you on your vacation, and you should. Wild Root Cream Oil Hair Tonic. Again and again, the choice of men who put good grooming first. And now, with Howard Duff starring as Spade, Wild Root brings to the air the greatest private detective of them all in The Adventures of Sam Spade.
You look sober as an owl.
Wise as an owl, sober as a judge, F.
Oh. Well, the way you talked on the phone, I thought you drowned the shamrock, kissed the Black Betty, spliced the main brace, decorated the mahogany, made a Dutch bargain, or, in a word, gone to give a Chinaman a music lesson.
Effie, I wish you'd spend more time with Harper's Bazaar while I'm gone and less with the thesaurus of slang. Didn't know I could say that. Are you sober?
Well, I've been riding the choo-choo, drinking Adam's ale. And if you don't believe it, just ask me to walk or talk.
Okay, here's your toasty. Arms akimbo, eyes glazed.
Yes, sir.
Now then, tip of the forefinger to the tip of the nose.
Oh, Sam, it makes me dizzy.
Dizzy Gillespie?
Dizzy go. Oh, Sam.
Exactly. And you are not sewn up, shagged, shellacked, chickered, stuccoed, tap-shackled, stiffo, or real crazy.
Well, you know best, Sam.
Good. Now try this one.
Yes, Prez.
Sitting posture, limbs cruciform.
What?
Cheesecake stop.
Oh, thanks.
That's it. Now place the notebook. Just a little higher. Good. Now apply the tip of the pencil to the top of the fool's cap and proceed viz.
Viz.
Date. August 1st, 1948. To Mrs. Netta Martini, 1000 Marina Boulevard, San Francisco. From Samuel Spade, license number 127596. Subject, Dear Netta. The first I knew of the caper was day before yesterday morning when I saw your husband's picture in the paper. It was one of those lovingly retouched executive-type photographs of a man in his late 40s or early 50s, graying at the temples and wearing an embalmed man of distinction look. The story was headlined, Corporation Head Waylaid by Mysterious Assailant. Chauffeur foils would-be kidnappers at offices of Martini Trading Company. The item under it wasn't as thrilling as the headline. Sounded as if he'd been knocked down for his wallet and the attempted kidnapping had been dreamed up by a bored city news reporter. I tossed it in the wastebasket along with my morning mail and went back to the Police Gazette. On page 3, the phone rang. Unique Garage, Harry speaking.
This is Spade.
One moment. Who's calling?
Gordon Martini.
Not Gordon Martini, the corporation head, waylaid by mysterious assailant.
Chairman of the board, and there's nothing mysterious about it.
Then what are you doing on this phone?
I can't talk on the phone.
Where are you? In a hospital?
I left that pest house this morning. I'm at my residence, 1000 Marina Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
It will take you exactly 20 minutes by cab. You will meet me in front of the building, and we'll have our conference in my car en route to the office.
Where's your office?
Downtown Post Street.
Oh, why don't I meet you there?
I'm a busy man. I have a full calendar. I'm already late due to all that hospital red tape. But I can fit you into my schedule if you'll hurry. Now, look alive, man.
Well, it's a little early in the morning, but I'm trying on.
Good. What will you want for a retainer?
I'll let you know if I decide to take the job.
Fair enough. 20 minutes. I'll expect you.
I should have looked more alive. It took me 2 minutes to get onto the street, 1 minute to flag down a cab, and 18 minutes to reach your address, Netta. A total of 21 minutes. As my taxi drew up to the curb in front of the canopied entrance to the corner apartment house at 1000 Marina, I saw your husband pacing indignantly up and down in front of the entrance, pausing only to glare at the outsized chronometer on his left wrist. His gray Homburg was perched atop an outsized turban of gauze bandage that decorated his head.
Here's Spade. You're exactly 1 minute and 22 seconds late. Hours are made of minutes, minutes are made of seconds. In killing this seemingly negligible interval of time, you have wounded an hour.
Oh, I have? Well, I'm sorry. The traffic's pretty heavy out here this hour of the morning, you know.
You should have started 1 minute and 22 seconds earlier.
I'm sorry there was a bore on the telephone, kept talking about how valuable his time was.
No, well, don't apologize. Only waste more time. Now, here's your check, $100. My car's just around the corner. I paid that chauffeur a large salary. We mustn't keep him waiting. In the meantime, you may as well start earning your fee.
I've been earning it for the past 22 minutes and 22 seconds.
Right. I suspected as much. You drive a car?
Yeah, you mean one man drives all that?
I see him, that rascally chauffeur of mine. Sleep in the back seat. All right, come out of there, you. Hey, what?
I was behind him and a little to the right. The shock of the rapid-fire 30-caliber slugs lifted him off his feet and knocked him against me. I went down under his 300 pounds of dead weight. By the time I rolled him off of me and got up, the gunman had jumped out of the limousine and into a gray sedan that was double parked alongside. In the welter of traffic on the boulevard, I didn't dare risk throwing a shot after him, but I did get the first 3 numbers of the license plate before it buried itself in the heavy stream of AM commuters. That's when the air changed from exhaust fumes to something out of a Persian garden. I turned and looked for the first time into your Nile green eyes, Netta, and saw you twisting a handkerchief in your pale hands I might have loved beside the Shalimar, but on Marina Boulevard they looked like hysterics dead ahead.
Who did it? You saw him. Don't lie to me. Why don't they come with me? All those people standing around there staring at me. Make them go away. Make them go away. I can't stand it.
Stop it, will you? That's better. Now, come on over here. Who are you, his wife?
Yes, and it was all my fault. This is the end. I called Ernie out the window and asked him to come upstairs. I wanted him to return some lingerie. They sent the wrong color, Pete.
Yeah. Who's Ernie?
He's our chauffeur. I was looking for the exchange slip when we heard the shots. Is he dead this time?
Yeah, don't go to pieces.
Poor Gordon, he had so many enemies. He didn't drink well, you know. People dropped us like flies.
Well, they certainly dropped your husband.
Are you a policeman?
No, but I'll do until the real thing comes along, which is right now. If I were you, lady, I'd go back upstairs and relax. They'll get to you soon enough.
Yes, I suppose you're right. Poor Gordon, he looks so natural stretched out on the pavement.
Yeah.
I keep thinking he'll get up and stagger on into the elevator. He didn't drink at all well.
Go on, will you?
All right, I'm going. Oh, Ernie, where did you go?
Down at the garage. I heard a car drive in. Poor Mr. Martini. It's all my fault.
No, Ernie, it's mine. If I only hadn't mislaid that exchange slip.
What?
You know, when I called you out the window to come and get that package.
Oh, that. What do we got here? Who's the witness?
Me.
Oh, Spade. Lost another client, huh?
Not quite. I hadn't cashed the check yet.
Well, they got him anyway. All right, pull a spacer there. Let him through with that stretcher.
All right.
Step over here out of the crowd, Sam. I want to get that statement.
Yeah.
All right, out of the way, please.
Okay, Gary, take it down.
Got a pencil?
Yeah, and I want it back.
Let's have it.
This guy is Gordon Martini. He headed up a local firm, the Martini Trading Company. Last night he was working late at his office. Got boinged. Phoned me this morning. Didn't know why. Thought maybe he wanted a bodyguard. Anyway, he needed one. Gunman was crouched in the backseat of the limousine, shoved the carbine out when Martini opened the door.
Carbine?
Didn't get a good look at him. You can see why, the way it's closed there, no side windows.
Foreign car, isn't it?
Stop drooling. You can't afford one. You getting all this?
What about the getaway?
Martini fell on top of me. I saw the getaway car in the back of his head.
Yeah.
The car was a gray sedan. The back of his head was a standard make, too. Only got the first 3 digits of license plate, 5D9.
5D9. Anything else?
Yeah, give me back my pencil. The homicide boys want some help. They know my fee.
Mr. Spade.
This is Martini. Why aren't you and Ernie upstairs getting your alibis shaped up?
Oh, please, I can't face the questions just yet. Would it be legal if I just avoided them till I can collect myself?
I don't know about legal, but it might be smart.
Where can we talk?
What do you suggest?
Well, there's a little cocktail lounge up on Lombard where Ernie and it's just around the corner.
Very handy. Let's go.
Against my mother's advice, I should have listened, but, well, that's why I married Mr. Martini.
Well, that brings us up to 1943, and it's only 11:45.
You're just like him, always holding a stopwatch over my head.
Always?
Well, he drank, you know.
You told me that.
But it's much more important than you think. He often fell down and bumped his head.
You mean that mysterious assailant that waylaid him last night in his office was a double Martini?
2 pitchers full before dinner. And he had to carry him up to his office.
Well, what did he go up there for?
Oh, we had an appointment with the vice president of the firm, Mr. Nesbitt. Something had come up, and he wanted Gordon to sign some papers. I don't know what. It wasn't the first time. I waited outside in the car. After Ernie had taken him upstairs, he came back to the car, and we talked.
Ernie has alibis upstairs, downstairs, and all around the house.
Well, then when the others came out and Gordon didn't, Ernie went upstairs to see why.
Others? Mr. Nesbitt and who else?
Mary Callahan.
Secretary?
No, she's an attorney. And if you think everything was legal between those two, well, but after all, who am I to call the kettle black?
Now, what are you trying to tell me? That you got him drunk so they could make him sign some papers? That he got himself drunk so he couldn't write his name? Or that he just got drunk and fell down?
Between you and me, I think she pushed him down a flight of stairs. In his condition, he never remembered.
Why are you putting the finger on the Callahan dame?
Well, what would you think? She was the last one out of the building.
Why didn't you want to tell all this to the police?
Well, I didn't want to talk about his drinking. Things were bad enough already. That would have been the end.
Well, that's as good an answer as any. What do you want me to do for you?
Prove that she did it and Ernie didn't.
I'll let you take care of Ernie.
Oh, no. I don't want to alibi him unless I have to. He might get the wrong idea.
You mean I've got the wrong idea?
He might think it meant I still care for him, and I don't. I can't stand him anymore. The way he chews those toothpicks. And besides, if his alibi is too good, I might have trouble about that carbine in the backseat of my car.
Pardon me, it sounded as if you said you might have trouble about a carbine in the backseat of your car.
That's what I said.
Where is your car?
In the garage. But somebody had it out this morning. They scraped the fender coming back in, and they ran into the wall. They must have been in an awful hurry.
Tell me, this car of yours, it wouldn't be a gray sedan?
Yes.
License number?
Oh, wait a minute. It's on my keyring. Here, 5D9.
That's enough. Why didn't you tell me this before?
Well, I couldn't get up the nerve. After I heard you tell that policeman the gun that killed Gordon was a carbine, and the gray sedan and all that, well, it's the end.
I hoped you were right, but I didn't think so. When I went to look at the gray sedan in your garage, I knew you were wrong, dead wrong. It was the getaway car, all right, and the carbine, as you know, was proven later to be the one that killed your husband. But Ernie had turned into a very poor suspect indeed. He was hugging the carpet between the front and rear seats, and when I nudged him, he didn't move. He'd been shot at closer range than Gordon Martini, and the killer had used only one slug. It was planted in the base of his brain, which made him not only a very poor suspect, but a very dead one.
The makers of Wild Root Cream Oil are presenting the weekly Sunday adventure of Dashiell Hammett's famous private detective, Sam Spade. If you want the well-groomed look that helps you get ahead socially and on the job, listen. Recently, thousands of people from coast to coast who bought Wild Root Cream Oil for the first time were asked, how does Wild Root Cream Oil compare with the hair tonic you previously used? Better than 4 out of 5 who replied said they preferred Wild Root Cream Oil. And no wonder. Wild Root Cream Oil grooms the hair neatly and naturally, relieves annoying dryness, and removes loose dandruff. What's more, non-alcoholic Wild Root Cream Oil is the only leading hair tonic that contains soothing lanolin. So ask for Wild Root Cream Oil Hair Tonic. Again and again, the choice of men who put good grooming first. By the way, smart girls use Wild Root Cream Oil too, and mothers say it's grand for training children's hair. And now, back to the Dry Martini Caper. Tonight's adventure with Sam Spade.
Martini Trading Company, good afternoon. I'm sorry, Mr. Nesbitt is in conference. I'll see that he gets your message. Well, what can I do for you?
I would like to see Miss Callahan.
Miss Callahan is in conference with Mr. Nesbitt.
Good. I would like to see them both.
But I have orders not to disturb them.
You do not have to. I will.
Just a minute. You can't go breaking in like that.
Yes, and I'll tell you something else. You won't ever get away with it. Why, everyone in this town knows about your underworld connection.
Why, you doddering old fool, when I get through with you, if you don't go to the gas chamber for Gordon Martini's murder, you wish you had.
If I go to the gas chamber, it'll be for killing you, not Gordon.
Oh, you said it. Oh, why didn't I have witnesses here?
Miss Callahan?
Did you hear that?
You weren't talking loud enough. I didn't hear a thing.
Well, come on in here, and I'll tell you a thing or two. Close that door. Now, sit down.
Thanks. I listen better on my feet.
Oh, so you're the detective Netta Martini employed, eh? What's she paying you?
That'll depend on how much I have to do for it.
Well, I'll tell you how much you'll have to do for her. You'll have to make a case against me, and that's not going to be easy.
Why do you think she's out to get you?
Why, indeed. For years, this moth-eaten mouthpiece, this parboiled Portia, has been victimizing poor Gordon, taking advantage of his weakness for drink.
Oh,
Now that she's liquidated him, she appears with 55% of the common stock. Motive enough, eh?
Why, you fraudulent old fool. I simply bought up his debts and threw an attachment on those stocks. Unethical, but perfectly legal.
Look,
but you're not even a proper thief. You're nothing but a bumbling old embezzler.
Now, listen
you
here.
had to tell because he was going to call in the auditors look over those books of yours. The deed of double entry, Mr. Spade.
Look, will you save this for the courtroom scene? Now, you've convinced me. You're both crooked. I'll see that you both go up for something. That's a promise.
Mr. Spade, I gave you credit for better sense. Do you know that this Medusa of the magistrate's court, this harpy of the Hall of Justice, tricked him into changing the beneficiary of his insurance the very night she pushed him down the stairs?
And you were all in favor of it when you thought you held a controlling interest in the company. Answer that. See, Mr. Spade, he can't answer that.
Good. I'm glad one of you is temporarily lost for words. Now, I only want to know one thing, and I want a straight answer. And if either one of you starts off on another speech, I'm going to push you into the nearest cloakroom and lock you in together.
Why, you wouldn't dare.
Try me, sweetheart.
Well, what do you want to know about this Amazon ambulance chaser, this Trilby of the traffic court?
Watch it.
Well, what do you want to know?
About Martini's insurance policy. Now, you say he changed the beneficiary. Please answer in 10 words or less. Who was the beneficiary and who is the beneficiary now?
I'll have to answer that question in 2 parts. The beneficiary was his wife. He changed it to the Martini Trading Company, a corporation of the state of California.
Thank you, and goodbye, Mary Callahan. And that nutter took the heat off of you for the time being, which made things tough for me. Because Callahan and Nesbitt were so horrible, I never wanted to see them again, even to testify against them in court. I was sure of one thing. None of you had pulled the trigger of that carbine. There'd been a hired killer behind it, and the way he operated, taking crazy chances in broad daylight in a crowded street, told me an important thing about him. That night, I made the rounds of the joints. At a plant called the Bing Room, I found a bouncer who'd tossed out a customer that run up a bill and tried to pay it with a $1,000 check. He sent me to the Atlas Hotel. The Atlas Hotel is off of 3rd Street down near the railroad yards. Not even a flea bag. The fleas sickened and died a long time ago. They couldn't take it. And from the look of the guests sprawled out in the mission furniture of the lobby, they wouldn't be able to much longer. A half-dead room clerk came back to the land of the living long enough to mutter a room number and waved me feebly toward a flight of crummy stairs.
Yeah, what do you want?
You, Hack Hartman?
Hey, you got anything for me, huh?
Yeah, I got news for you. Get back in the room. I'll tell you all about it.
Yeah. Well, come on in.
Drop the shiv.
Yeah, I'll drop it. I'll fix you. I'll cut you good. I'll cut you.
I'm glad you did that. You make it easy for me. Now get over there.
Leave me alone. Leave me alone. I'm not feeling so good.
You can feel a lot worse. Who hired you to put the burn on Martini?
You don't get nothing out of me.
Who gave you that check?
Oh, leave me alone.
I got all night, Hack, and I feel better than you do. Now, what'd you do with that check? Now, shake it if your teeth come out with it. Come on.
All right. Stop it. I don't feel so good.
Okay. Where?
Pocket. My shirt.
Don't reach. I'll get it. There was a company check, which is what I'd expected. It was for $1,000 drawn on the Golden Gate Trust and Loan, but I wasn't expecting to find the signature on the bottom line. It was signed in a bold, firm hand, Gordon Martini. Who was the penman on this?
He wrote it himself, right in front of me.
What was it supposed to be for?
He wanted I should knock off his brother.
You get mixed up?
Well, he's dead, ain't he?
That's what I mean. Gordon Martini's dead.
The papers got it wrong. That was his brother, his twin brother. And that other guy, that chauffeur, kept hanging around the garage so I couldn't get out. I had to burn him, too.
You know what you're saying?
Yeah. I'm making sense. Now get out of here. I'm getting steamed.
Don't let it worry you. I got a nice, cool place all picked out for you. After I turned Hack over to the cops, I did what checking I could on my own at that time of night. As nearly as I could learn, Gordon Martini could never have had a brother, twin or otherwise. He was a first child. His mother died in childbirth, and his father died 1 month later. So I went back to the offices of the Martini Trading Company, glass-keyed my way in, and made a quick frisk of it. There I learned that the signature on the check was indeed Gordon's, but that he had closed out his account at that bank the day he wrote it. I thought about that on the way out to your apartment.
Sam, I've been calling, trying to reach you. I've been so worried. It's the end.
This time you might be right. Fix me a drink.
Well, there's nothing in the house but those prepared martinis Gordon used to drink. Is that all right?
No, but fix me one anyway. Never mind the ice. It's not morning yet, but I hate myself already.
Why don't you just relax and let me get it for you?
I'll relax. You get the martinis.
What happened? What'd you think of Mary Callahan? Isn't she the end?
She's cute. You're all cute.
All of me? How nice.
I'd put ice in anyway. It's nasty without.
It's nasty anyway.
I hope it doesn't make you fall down the way it did poor Gordon.
Thanks.
What's the matter? Too dry?
You open this bottle fresh?
Why, yes. What's the matter?
Where are they? The rest of the bottles. Oh, yeah. More of the same. Is this all your husband ever drank?
Yes, gallons of it. It's a special brand. He even took it with him to bars and people's houses. He'd sit and drink them right out of the bottle like a little child. Then he'd be falling down drunk, of course. And that's how we lost so many friends. They dropped us like...
Like flies. Yeah, it was the end.
Who you phoning?
City morgue.
Maxie, Sam Spade.
Sammy, what can I do on you?
On Martini, Maxie, they got around to the autopsy yet?
Yeah, they rushed him through.
Got the report handy?
Right in front of me. Funny thing, Sam. The doc said they should have saved themselves the trouble. He'd have been dead in a week or two without no help.
What from?
Brain tumor. Malignant, it says here.
Any alcohol in him?
None from drinking, Sammy.
What about the head wounds?
Accidental fall due to periodic fainting spells. Part of his condition.
Thanks, Maxie.
Well, what is it, Sam? Were the martinis poison?
No, sweetheart. The martinis were colored water.
Why, they couldn't. Well, what made him get so drunk?
He didn't. He was sick.
But, Sam, who killed him?
Killed himself.
But he couldn't have.
He hired a gunman to do it. He planned his own murder.
But that... What? Well, why didn't he leave a note or something? He could have ruined us all.
Come here, sweetheart. Put your little head on Uncle Sam's shoulder.
What, Sam?
That's, just what he wanted you to do. He wanted to ruin you. He let Mary Callahan fleece him out of his interest in the company. He let Nesbitt juggle the books. He let you go your way with Ernie. He let all three of you fix yourselves up with as nice a set of motives for murder as a jury could ask for.
Couldn't have.
The real joker was the check he used to pay off the man he hired to kill him. It bounced. It also proved he'd planned his own murder. But he still has his revenge. Because the insurance that would have kept the corporation from going broke won't be paid off on account of the self-liquidating cause.
Oh, Sam, darling, what's going to become of us all?
Well, Callahan and Nesbitt will probably sue each other to death. You might have to go to work and earn a living.
Well, I have $500. I might invest it in something.
You already have. Here's my bill.
But, Sam, you didn't help me. What? This is the end.
No, it isn't, sweetheart. This is the beginning. Come here. Period. End of the end.
Well, you asked me. You helped her.
Now, F.
Well, that just goes to show you.
Show what, F?
Man's ingratitude to man. But what did Mr. Martini have against you?
Why, nothing, sweetheart. He just needed a smart operator like, Johnny Madero was under.
Sam. Have you cashed that check Mr. Martini gave you?
Well, not yet.
Sam, any bartender would know better than to take a check from a man who drinks that much.
F, you haven't been paying attention. He didn't drink. He didn't. I was able to establish that later on. You haven't been listening.
At the time, Sam, for all anybody knew, he was a hopeless drunk. He was, Sam. Oh, you're so wonderful and trusting. But I do wish that you'd understand this. He was a hopeless drunk.
For the last time, Effie, he didn't really drink.
I'll just type this up, Sam, while you call the bank.
I'll do that.
A final reminder, friends. Whether you're going on a long vacation trip or just a weekend to the beach, be sure you've got a bottle and tube of Wild Root Cream Oil tucked away in your suitcase. Do this, and you'll find it's easy and quick to spruce up again after stepping out of the water or off the tennis court. For no matter where or when you use it, Wild Root Cream Oil grooms your hair neatly and naturally, relieves dryness, removes loose dandruff. So at home and away from home, help yourself to handsome hair with Wild Root Cream Oil. And next time you have a chance, ask your barber for a professional application of Wild Root Cream Oil Hair Tonic. Again and again, the choice of men who put good grooming first.
Well, here it is, Sam. I hope it was worth the price of the paper and carbons.
You made carbon copies of that? An unimportant report like that?
Oh, it bounced?
Well, the estate isn't settled yet.
Oh, Sam, you're so wonderful and trusting.
Effie, I am not wonderful and trusting. I am a hard-boiled private eye.
I know. Just a pity there's no money in it.
And I'm also two-fisted.
Sam, have you ever thought of ceramics?
Of what?
Ceramics. It takes virtually no capital. All you need is a small furnace and some clay. And if you don't have any talent, you can just make ashtrays.
Thanks, I already have one.
Oh, flower pots are fun. You can pop them on a wheel.
And you can pot your hat on and wheel on out of here and also take your furnace and clay.
I love you when you're so gay and carefree.
I am not gay and carefree.
You are a hard-boiled private eye.
Good night and sue me for your back salary, sweetheart.
The Adventures of Sam Spade, Dashiell Hammett's famous private detective, are produced and directed by William Spear. Sam Spade is played by Howard Duff. Lorene Tuttle is Effie. The Adventures of Sam Spade are written for radio by Bob Tallman and Gil Dowd, with musical direction by Lud Gluskin. Gil Dowd directed tonight's broadcast in William Spear's absence. Join us again next Sunday for another adventure with Sam Spade, brought to you by Wild Root Cream Oil. Again and again, the choice of men who put good grooming first. This is Dick Joy reminding you to
get Wild Root Cream Oil, Charlie. It keeps your hair in trim. You see, it's non-alcoholic, Charlie. It's made with soothing lanolin. You better get Wild Root Cream Oil, Charlie. Start using it today. You'll find that you will have a tough time, Charlie. Keep all the gals away. Hiya, Baldy. Get Wild Root right away.
This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.